one should not be forced to sound like a different person while taking the name that comes from a different language, because that sort of imposition is never on the first world. It's
Yeah,
always when, as a part of the third world, you are trying to take another name or adopt
yeah.
another language, you have to have that sort of finesse.
Yeah.
Prakhar, we'll begin with this only, the episode, so that everyone who is
This is
going to scold us will already be,
You're
primed for
doing
this.
apologia for us from the very beginning.
जादू मंतर जादू मंतर जादू मंतर You are going into the future.
You talking to me?
They always be the clothing. என் பேர் மாணிக்கம் எனக்கு இன்னொரு பேர் இருக்கு
Talking to me?
Queen is dead.
Hello, and welcome to part 2 of our Pride special series here at Queen is Dead. I'm joined again by our returning queer cinema enthusiasts, Dhruv and Ashwin, as well as a very special returning guest, Prakhar. Hi, Prakhar, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me again.
Our pleasure. And for the listeners, you can check out part 1, where we sort of began the series by trying to think about how queer cinema is explored, or how queerness is explored in cinema by a number of filmmakers around the world. We began with Asian queer cinema, exploring the works of Simon Liang, Wong Kar-wai, and Apichatpong Veerasathukul. For this episode, we are going to be picking up 3 European films by Chantal Akerman, that is Meetings of Anna, Werner Fassbinder, that is Querelle, and Alain Guiraudie, which is Stranger by the Lake.
Do you not want to pronounce the French title or Belgium title of Meetings of Anna, Cris, since you are an expert in pronunciations?
Who said?
It's La Rendezvous d'Anna. It's
La-
simple. No? La Rendezvous d'Anna, something like that.
Thank you.
See, this
Ashwin
is
to the
why
rescue.
you do this. So, once I said lay also, I would be like, oh, okay, lay might sound like, like the Hindi
Yeah.
lay. In any ways, sorry, go ahead, Cris. Yeah.
No, so yeah, the idea is like we said. So one of the questions that came up last time, which we want to explore here as well, is what is a queer film? What makes a queer film? And how do different auteurs explore that through their film? Does a same-sex relationship in a film make it a queer film, or someone is gender diverse, or can themes and aesthetic choices also make a film queer? So we will begin with the Meetings of Anna. So we'll go in chronological order.
Moi j'essuie les verres au fond du café, la la la, j'ai bien trop à faire pour pouvoir rêver, la la la, et dans ce décor banal à pleurer, la la la, c'est corps contre corps qu'on les a trouvés, la la la.
This film is a 1978 film, directed and written by Chantal Akerman. It stars Aurore Clement, Jean-Pierre Cazel, Helmo Graham, Lia Mazzari, Magali Noel, and Hans Zischler. It's edited by Francine Sandberg, and cinematography is by Jean Penzer.
There is no music, which is
There's no music
gonna
much,
be
which
one more. No, it'll repeat itself in another film later. So
yeah, and which Dhruv is a very big fan of. If you've listened
huge
to this
fan
podcast
of,
at all.
huge fan of, yeah,
Yeah, the film
Plus
is
one. I love films without music.
yeah.
Yeah, the film is in French, and the summary, courtesy IMDb, is director Anna traverses Europe for film events, encountering strangers, family, and a Polish Jewish refugee friend, listening to their personal stories. The aftermath of war persists throughout her journey across the continent. So I'm going to throw it to Dhruv, who actually selected this film for this lineup. And the question to you is also, why do you think it counts as a queer film? If you can talk about how
Yeah.
queerness is dealt with in it and how you think it qualifies, especially in light of our discussions of Happy Together.
Yeah. So again, just to preface, if people are wondering why Ashwin and Cris made a worthy argument for why Happy Together was something that we wouldn't consider queer film, you can please listen back to that episode. In this, I think as I said, Chris, I have alternative titles for all three of these films, which one of them automatically, and Chris is holding his hands in disbelief as if I'm committing some crime. They're quite nice, I think. But the first one, this in many ways to me is quote unquote unhappy together, which means with the Chantal Akerman film is. And I think there is a similar thing shared with Happy Together in that this is a film as much about displacement as it's about queerness. And I think Ashwin and Chris have raised the same question as to why did you throw Krishna Goyal, who is not part of the like, you are the heterosexual guy who's invading this particular discussion. Why have you selected um, meetings of Anna for this? So I guess I don't. It's not like a clear cut sort of defense. That I mean, again, if we are defining queer cinema as cinema which features same-sex relationships and it shows them overtly, then Happy Together would count as one. Then even the other film I suggested would count as one, which you guys roundly rejected, which is Mulholland Drive by David Lynch. So, both those feature same-sex relationships and they feature like sex scenes with the two characters fairly extensively in them. So this is a film defined by a total absence of everything for me. Meetings of Anna is absence in the sense of emotion, in the sense of relationships, of course, connection being the big thing. And I think I've seen it twice now, and I'm a big Chantal Akerman fan, so I have to, like, I guess, preface that. I think she's one of the greats in general of filmmaking we have. If anyone hasn't seen Jean Dieleman, that's the big text for her. And then there's News from Home, which is the more underrated, more experimental film. If they're interested in sort of how someone explores a city film, or sort of, how they explore a mother-daughter relationship in a film, which sort of comes back to it here. So this Meetings of Anna, I would say, is a queer film simply on the basis of how much I had written this, like, how much this is a film about the post World War II depression essentially catching up to queer misery, or what queer misery is, in the sense that everyone Anna has a conversation with in this, who is very clearly a stand-in for Chantal Akerman as the person she is. And there's a whole tragic thing about her actually suffering from depression, having, like, the autobiographical details in this very much lead into her, like, they define a lot of what her life was. And then eventually she committed suicide after her mother passed away. So there's a entire sort of metatextual element to it which is not relevant to this discussion, but I will bring it up when we're discussing, like, particulars of it. But in this film, Anna is discussing, or no, not actually, she is listening more than discussing to a lot of what people are saying when she's moving around the country touring her film. And it's all about her listening to these people, and a lot of them. So she goes from Germany and has to transit in Belgium to meet her mother, and then go to France. And along the way she meets a bunch of people. And a lot of the discussions in the film are about people's loneliness after the war, after World War has ended, and then after how they're coming out of it. And the reason why I thought of it more as a queer film, apart from the big scene in which she clearly addresses the one potential satisfaction she gets in the film, is from an elongated discussion with her mother, where she where the whole mother as lover angle also sort of shows up, in the sense that the mother becomes the substitute for the lover for 10 minutes, not in a sort of demonstration of physical relationship, but the whole idea that this is the only relationship in which she experiences some form of I won't say pleasure, because pleasure implies a sort of sexual dimension to it, but it's more to do with happiness. I think she experiences some happiness for some time in that relationship. But I think the second time when I watched it, the thing that really sort of solidified the whole queer cinema angle for me was that everyone who she listens to consistently re-emphasizes this need for heteronormativity, or like this idea of, they are all depressed, they are all sad, but they are like, we want to go back to this time where my wife was with me, which is the first meeting she has with, as someone has very wonderfully pointed out, Christopher Nolan. The stand-in as Christopher Nolan because he looks a lot like him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other person she talks to is someone whose son is engaged to Anna, and she basically says that a woman should essentially have children, a woman should settle down. These are the things which will, how else will you be happy? And she is, of course, listening, and we are listening through her. And what we see is that this woman herself is deeply unhappy, but she consistently sort of, thinks that pushing this idea of utopia becomes something which will make her happy. And then there's the what's the third? The mother character is the odd one out, of course, out of these. There's the guy at the train, which I think is one of the best sequences Chantal Akerman has directed inside a train, and how she's moving, how Anna is moving within that train space for about, it's a 10-15 minute sequence where she's talking, she's listening to someone talk, and then she's making her way throughout the train. And he talks about starting a new life and hopefully finding a new girl in France and settling with her, and that sort of being a new start. And I love, he says essentially that it'll be a new start, and he's like, if you say so, or something like that, in the idea that she's not sure if it actually might be. And then there's the Cassell character, who is he related to Vincent Cassell? He looks a lot like him. No,
I
he's not
didn't
related.
get
He
it.
looked a lot like Vincent Cassell, who's the actor and who acts now. But anyways, he says that I wish I was a woman, and the only thing I wanted to do was have a baby and sing to her or something
Yes.
like that.
Vincent
Let
Cassell's
me just
father.
confirm. He is the
Father,
father.
right? Okay, so he looked a lot like Vincent
Yeah.
Cassell, so I assumed it's that. And I just didn't say father because I thought if it's an uncle or something, then I'll probably get Anyways, so he says something along those lines too. So to me, it's like this whole idea that everyone's pushing her to be happy in a sort of heteronormative way. And you see that normativity being a source of unhappiness for all of them also still. None of them is happy in their lives. And the other thing is that, and it's a spin on the notion of queerness in some ways, where the whole idea is that queerness itself is also not a source of happiness for her, which is permanent. The whole idea for me is that queerness is a temporary respite for her, in the sense that at least that provides some sort of momentary respite and a sort of momentary escape, if you want to call it, from what sort of general convention is. So to me, it works on that sort of level of queerness. It has a discussion of her queer encounter with a woman in after a festival, and the whole idea is that she's waiting for this call from Italy, which is supposedly coming, but keeps on getting delayed. And I think to the final sequence, which is another memorable sequence, which is a sort of static, which a lot of the film is static shots, static wides, which is a more prominent way in which Ackerman's films operate. But it looks at her face whilst she's listening to these different messages. One of them, which I think is the Italian woman, but you kind of see her face light up, but then also have like tears almost rolling through them, and then she has to switch to another message. So you get this idea of queerness being something which is, of course, special to her, but also something which she has to struggle with in her interactions in daily life. So I think, to me, I justified the inclusion in that way. If you wanted me to justify it in a more overt way, then you can see your first film that was released, feature film, which is Jetu Il L, which is a similar story, but it features an entire sex scene with Chantal Akerman, who is the protagonist, and her partner in the film. But to me, the evocation here is very strong, and I think the evocation of that sort of helped me. I mean, we also wanted a different pick. When we talk about the different sort of queer films, the two other films in this are like explicitly queer. So I think you need to. To me, it sort of fit in that mold also. Anyways, I've blabbered a lot about my defense. You guys can sort of chime in. Sorry for taking that long.
Prakhar, thoughts?
Yes, so if I was listening to Dhruv, and it gives me two understandings of basis this conversation, two understandings of queerness that we can go ahead with. The one is, of course, queerness as identity,
Yeah.
And a big chunk of queer cinema directly deals with it. And there's when it comes to identity, then there's a lot of physicality involved. There's a lot of signifiers of it being visibly there in front of you, easily readable, and that is what a lot of queer cinema goes towards. But then to also look at queerness as an act of decentering heteronormativity. So you
Yeah.
may not fit in the identity boxes that have also begun to be sort of standardized. So that is it almost becomes a little counterproductive when we're trying to detach ourselves from this whole idea of heteronormativity, and then what we eventually see happen. And as my inkling is, जैसे वो रहता ना, your Benjamin's multiplication of art. So somebody from their very close personal experience draw something very abstract around the experience of queer identity, and then it gets picked upar tak, where you have very surface level popular culture representation, and that finally boxes very few indications from it, very few elements, again signifiers, and then boxes it there. So if we're looking at queerness as an identity, meetings of Anna does not really fit, because it feels a little like tokenistic, Anna, that I will just add this varnish of her having a lover somewhere else, so that there can be that thread opened there. But from the other perspective, where how actively the protagonist is trying to detach herself from heteronormativity, and there's all the forces in her life are again trying to pull her back to it, and because of this there's such dissonance that she feels, where the film rests. And that was and when I was watching, I was not actually thinking about that. I kept thinking about how the train is so metaphorical. It's clearly her passing through time and various identities she molds into as the context demands. So that were my initial thoughts. I also did not actually give it a thought why the film is included in the queer cinema episode. I just watched films back to back. So yeah.
Yeah. No, but I'm Ashwin and Chris are the judges here. So did we make a decent enough case? I guess.
Oh yeah,
Ashwin, do you want to go
I'm
first?
totally convinced actually. Like
Okay.
immediately, like
You guys are
my
easy to please also. So yeah, I think it works. Yeah.
No, I think I think your reading is interesting to me. I again take a slightly more again philosophical kind of perspective to
Also,
queerness as well, right?
just to clarify, again, this is the same scenario with the river for me, in the sense that I have
Yeah.
seen this before. I know Chantal Akerman's films are about loneliness and alienation, so
Mhm.
I'm also prioritizing a lens. So it might be that I am fine, but this time the conversations really did strike me in how differently they all re-emphasize similar stuff. So
Yeah.
I was more keyed into that earlier. Of course, the aesthetics of alienation are like my jam as much as it can get. So this is like there are multiple gestures in this film which I am like, did she what telescope has she used from 1978 and looked through the window and seen my life? So like, to be that some of the interactions which she has, I do feel very connected to. So first viewing me, that was the main impression. On the second viewing, this part of it did show itself. So anyways, just clarifying that.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. So the point is, I really understand where both of your readings come from. Again, my approach to queerness has really expanded as I've worked in the field academically. And to
Yeah.
me, yes, the question of heteronormativity itself is there, but to me, queerness is generally a question about normativity itself, right? So the normativity can be, my research is on how normativity can express itself cinematically, aesthetically. So I'll come to that when we talk about a film like Querelle.
Yeah.
But to me, so there are these signifiers which are present in cinema, which resonate with a certain queer experience that need not directly be in conversation with even heteronormativity or queerness or sexuality or gender at all, that to me still read as queer as non-normative, queer as weird, strange, to go back to the definition of that term. So to me, the kind of that in-betweenness, that alienation, not all alienation to me reads as queer. My point is not to draw a direct that all alienation is queer, but
Yeah.
the texture of the alienation that the film sort of exists within, the in-betweenness, the driftlessness, the inability to relate to other people, that has a very, like, again, a lot of our work is vibes, and then you kind of, try to make an academic argument for it. But it, to me, resonates in a very deeply queer way. So that is where I sort of justify its presence, even, because when we were talking about Happy Together, the criticism that I had mainly was that, to me, queerness is about, in a certain sense, defying normativity, whereas a film like Happy Together is very
It
much
circles back into it
reinforcing of
also.
it.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
circles back to it, it reinforces it. It is, and that is, into a certain extent, heteronormativity, but also the idea that like, for example, promiscuity, queer desire, etc., are opposed to the normative standard, and thus those who indulge in it are punished. So that there's
Yeah.
that kind of reinforcement of normativity. Here again, looking at the kind of post-war drama, the alienation, all of that, that has that idea that, structures of normativity, not just heteronormativity, structures of what one is supposed to behave like, how one is supposed to inhabit society, how one is supposed to behave with another person. When you have messages on your phone, you are supposed to have a certain reaction to them, reply to them, feel a joy when someone says there's missing you.
Yeah.
All of these things are actively denied and defied.
I mean,
That
also
is, to me, what makes
I
it.
think also the whole idea of the mother as
Yeah.
the lover, which I think is the other sort of big scene, which they go to like it's got a lot of like like they take a hotel room for a night, like it's
Yeah.
got a lot of those things which I was like, again, did not notice like the whole idea of that strain going through it, but it's got that whole idea that it is one night, it is the one conversation where she is speaking. Of course, that's the big thing, and the mother is listening. Mother, incidentally, is from La Ventura, the Michelangelo Antonioni film. She's Anna, actually, like in the Antonioni film, and then she's her mother here, which is a very interesting connection because
And
this
she's
is
the only
very
one who
Antonioni-like.
Anna spends the night with, right? Because with both
Yes.
other men, she
Yeah.
leaves before
Yeah.
before any act of consummation can take place.
Yeah.
But here, the mother is the only person with whom she's able to spend the night, per se. So
Yeah.
to me, there's a texture of queerness that, to me, does not require a certain, even the presence of like same-sex attraction being mentioned or present, etc. But I think for me, the film is more interesting, and also the reason why I am not particularly, pulled towards it is the fact that, so to me, queer misery comes in two particular traditions, or I would say two ends of the spectrum when it comes to how that is expressed. One is a kind of queer asceticism, or kind of like distance, lack, void. And to me, Meeting Savannah is a film like that, where misery is sort of expressed as the lack of connection, the inability, and this kind of loneliness, etc. And the other end of the spectrum is suffering as excess, queer misery as excess, as this
Blue
outpouring.
Moon.
Blue Moon,
Querelle.
Rocky Horror,
Life.
Querelle, Rocky Horror Picture Show, all these kinds of screaming, aestheticizing of that kind of misery. I am much more interested, or I'm more attracted to the latter end of that spectrum. That is the kind of cinema I enjoy, where
If you've
the
spent
incest.
time with Chris, you will get to know this, by the way. Sorry,
I
just
mean,
to.
I love films with lots of idiosyncratic dialogue. I love lots of like background music and like wild aesthetic choices, and
Yeah, the fact that you
that.
don't hate this is a big thing, to be very honest, at this point. Yeah.
But it's to be a reductionist here is
Yeah.
the dramatics of it pulls you to it. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it may not be high polished varnished drama, but like
Yeah.
any version, any way
Yeah.
drama plays, and not necessarily narratively, but like
Yeah.
visual sense. Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's sort of everything. All of it put together, when the misery is expressed as something that is being sort of propulsed out of the body,
Yeah.
and not something that is being trapped inside. That is what I enjoy.
Yeah.
Therefore, for me, there's a fundamental disconnect with the film, in that I can really appreciate, and we've had this conversation before, even when you were talking about, say, a tropical malady and stuff like that, where it's like, I can appreciate the aesthetic sensibility, the craft of the filmmaking.
I mean, this
everything.
is a different level of aesthetic compared to Tropical Malady also. This is
No,
like
absolutely.
your like Bresson even pushed more,
Yes.
I would say. But yeah, I mean, Akerman is an aesthetic, and in many ways,
Yeah.
she's inspired from a lot of experimental filmmakers. So, the structuralist movement that time was going on and all
But
that.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I would be, I am, and I think Dhruv also is of the camp where it goes inwards. So
Yeah.
the farther in you go into the character, the world around becomes a bit blurry, and
Yeah.
it's this lucid dream like scene.
Yeah.
And from what I hear of Chris is like as outward as it goes, and it
Yeah.
sort of splashes over everything that's
Yeah.
around and what constitutes that world. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, very like distinctly different aesthetic sensibilities, and I think because for me, this is like if I don't like this, then I think there's a problem. Like to me, the aesthetics are so attuned to my liking that I'm like, how can I not? Like it's I told Chris, this is a comfort film for me in many ways. Like I can sleep to this film in that sense. It's
But
got that rhythm to it, like which is very
for me,
strangely
it also
calming.
has to do with what sort of definition or how do I understand film as an art form to be
Yeah,
also. So when this, in my understanding, there's only certain things that film can do.
yeah,
For example, what I find with Querelle is I can find in novels, is what
sure.
something I can find in live performances, and it comes together really well.
Hmm.
But what I find in Stranger by the Lake or Meetings of Anna is something you would only find in film. But that's again a very personal preference
Yeah.
also. And I do also want to listen to Ashwin because he's been so quiet.
No, no.
No, but now that you've heard the discussion,
Yeah, and now that
where are
we've
you
not
standing?
included the salacious, not salacious, the scandalous parts of what stuff you like in this episode. Yeah.
Let's not go there. So,
Yeah.
like, no, I've been listening because, like, I just finished watching like an hour ago. I'm still processing
Mm.
as you guys are talking
Hmm.
about it. So, like, Dhruv has convinced me about the cureness of it. But
Thank you,
for
Ashwin.
me,
Sorry.
yeah, the thing is, like, for me, it kind of transcends cureness, and the alienation in this is like it doesn't fit into a certain box as such. It
Mm.
reminded me of like Red Desert or something, like very Antonionian-esque.
Antonio.
So
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, so like as Prakhar was saying, the train is like passage of time. So it's
Hmm.
very general and like what do you say, like universal than the specificity of the cureness. That's why I was asking you like why here, but your heteronormativity argument is like very convinced me. Actually, I get it. So yeah, I really like the film, and like I had a question about the Christopher Nolan guy, like he when he was talking about his like wife who ran away with a Turkish guy or something, he also mentioned a friend like who lost the job and like left the city or something, and he seemed so broken about the idea that his friend left. So like I was like wondering if is he like gay, or like I've written here like is he gay, question mark on my notes, and I'm like was he proposing a kind of a lavender marriage kind of thing, like because
Interesting. This is
did you
Christopher
listen
Nolan.
to the Chris Nolan guy who
Yeah.
had like a garden, and he, took her to the home. He was introducing her to the daughter and his mom and all.
Hmm.
While he was talking about what happened to his life, he talks about a friend
Hmm.
who, in the aftermath of the war, like his friend
Lost.
lost the job and
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
had to
Yeah.
move away. He mentioned it
Hmm.
like twice, and he seemed very emotional about it. So, like, did
Interesting.
you notice that part? Like,
I no, I didn't think of this, so I'm
Chris
picking of whatever
is
you had said.
nodding his
Chris is
head,
nodding
or
in approval, but yeah, they
I
are the
mean,
people who queer read into like what else did you talk about?
what I got scolded for querying into heat, which I think
No,
is
okay,
as
yeah, that's
banal as it gets.
sure, okay,
But as like level one queer reading as it gets. But
I know,
anyways, no,
yeah,
but I definitely feel like there's a certain like maybe even like a texture of homosociality or homo affection
right.
that you
sure,
kind of see there, which again, once you get to the scene of Anna, you are like, okay, there is definitely like something, because again, that becomes the one connection where he's truly talked about this meant so much to me and was deprived of me, where with his own
Absolutely.
wife it's like I thought things were going well, I thought things were working out. There's a kind of matter
sure.
of factness to it, whereas this one is described with a lot more affection. So I totally see that. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, I just remember from that interaction that very like direct dialogue, which I might have said also sometime, where it's basically like she's like, I feel like I've known you forever, and she's like, but you've not.
Just no. Yeah. I mean,
So,
it's like, this every other character would go on like a two-page monologue, and she'll be like,
yeah,
wait. like very wooden, like a person
Yeah,
character. So it's very it's like as the movie like moves forward, like you just get used to it. Like
yeah,
I thought it was a bit wooden in the first hotel scene, then I'm like, yeah,
yeah.
okay, this is her.
Mm.
Like I got
I
used
mean,
to it.
there's a sorry, just to interrupt. There's like this whole the whole aesthetic to me in the hotel, especially. I was like, this is
Mm.
the way like the elevator is like positioned in the right bottom corner, and it like it's so like symmetrically aesthetic. I'm like, this is like a West, like if someone like strained the life out of a Wes Anderson film or like a Jacques Tati film, like it's got that
And-
very like sterile. Like, her aesthetic is sterile, but like the
yeah,
whole
yeah,
idea of it being
Like
this.
there
Yeah.
are way too many frames of doors, staircases,
Yes.
like entry and exit to
Yeah.
different places she's going to be a part of.
Yeah.
Just re-emphasizes the whole liminality part of it, which I
Yeah.
love. Like,
Yeah.
right.
like make it as soluble as what's the word, as symbiotic as possible, where there's
Yeah.
like constant movement between so many things,
Yeah.
and also break down all the rigid walls as much as you can. I think
Yeah.
that from that
L-
perspective, again, it does make for a
Yeah.
good queer film.
Lots of phone booths, actually. A lot of
Yeah.
like people, the whole communication angle of it is also like re-emphasized through the phones and this whole idea of the, and there's the repeated shots of her like in the on the station where she's entering a phone booth, and of course she shoots it from the outside so that you get the lines of the
Hmm.
phone booth, so she's more boxed in, like very like framing basics, which like if you
And
want to if you want to if you want to
all
learn
the
actually about all this, you should probably watch
yeah.
Chantal Akerman in general. She's like tremendous with all this.
All the meetings she has have such a odd confessional tone to it, where
Yeah,
this anybody she meets is talks more, reveals more, and she's sort
yeah.
of mostly the it's what are those in churches? Those
Confessional boxes. Yeah, yeah. What
confession
was it?
boxes.
I'm not
Like the
sure of the
priest sits
name.
inside. There's a term for it. I'm forgetting, but the priest
Yeah,
sits inside, and then you can make a confession to the priest.
yeah.
It and that has always any representation of it, even in films, if it has been more wholesome, more in the cathartic light,
Mm,
it has, for me, it has always had this like this layer of uneasiness that
mm,
you're letting yourself bear to somebody in hopes that it reaches God, and that sort of connection that you're seeking through somebody.
mm.
That sort of unease I could feel in most of the interactions she had,
Yeah,
because it's almost always, until we come to the conversation she has with her mom,
yeah.
which is clearly designed to be the centerpiece of all the meetings she's been
Yeah.
having.
I mean, this like links wonderfully to News from Home, actually, which is the
Yeah.
great mother-daughter film. I think we have one of the most.
Which
Uh,
made me think from, and
yeah,
because I'm reading, as I mentioned
yeah,
in the beginning of the episode,
yeah,
Mother Mary comes to me,
mm,
um from a daughter-mother relationship perspective.
mm,
Growing up from girlhood to womanhood,
mm,
is your whole journey as a girl to woman. Every meeting you have is ultimately to meet your mom in the way that you sort
yeah,
of come to a point in life, where you begin to understand her and sort of see yourself in her.
yeah.
I think that is what Meetings of Anna means to
Sure.
me, in
Yeah,
the sense that everything that every place she's traversed has ultimately led her to this point where she meets Anna,
yeah. I mean,
and
the
also,
meta-textual element of it is that the last film she made is with her mother, and it's a
yeah,
documentary called No Home Movie.
No home movie. Yeah.
So yeah, it's the mother strain is there throughout her, like I think defined her entire filmography in many ways. So that's again one of those things. Today is Father's Day when we are recording this. I only know of this
yeah,
because of what we are doing now on social media, which is to like try and put ourselves more out there. So we are doing like Father's Day posts, which I never thought I would
yeah,
do. So, but anyways, this this has a sort of mother. If you are into sort of that sort of relationship, I think she really taps into the
yeah.
emotions of it really well. Anyways, Ashwin, sorry we sabotaged your
No, no, no,
piece.
it's all. Yeah, so I mean, I really I love it actually. Like in the end, in the final static shot, like you can see that it's not as if she doesn't have any options for any connections. She's getting
Yeah,
like several messages from people, like from her work, and other she is like there are opportunities for social interactions, but
Yeah.
there is still a certain void in her life. So that void is very much related to the queerness of the character. So I get it. It's a wonderful film. So especially the metatextual aspects, as you said, like
Mm.
when I was watching that final shot, like it made me feel very sad, like knowing like what happened to her in the end. Like
Mm.
although this is in 1978, but she died
Yeah.
by suicide in 2015. So I was thinking of that, when I saw that final shot, there are people in her life, but she feels a certain void, like which she
Yeah.
might have carried across her life. So like that made
Yeah.
me very sad. So
I mean,
I think
it's
it's because of
sorry,
this.
just to so
Yeah.
all to add one point about the whole idea, and we've not addressed this, but I thought we would regardless because Chantal Akerman has now sort of become a little bit more of a controversial figure than she was before, due to the whole sort of Zionism angle of
Yeah.
it, where she has appeared in a couple of documentaries, I think, or she's done something. She's made a film on Israel, which I've not watched, but she visited Israel at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So she's become a slightly more controversial figure. But again, I don't know. Again, I'm not extrapolating what her views on it will be now and if she would support it and all that. And I just don't think it's fair to extrapolate after all this has happened. But the point is that in this, there's a really good sort of reckoning of post-war stuff going on in terms of national identities also being crushed for Germany, for other nations around her. So I think it's interesting to see how she's tackling some of those aspects there. If the idea of home is that definite for her or had become that definite for her, at least it didn't solidify until 1978 because there is no home in this film, which provides a sort of
Mm-hmm.
safe space. It's the train, right? As Prakhar was saying, like it is the always moving. There is no sort of stop which she finds a respite at. So it's interesting from that angle. At least I wanted to mention that because I know some people have expressed some skepticism about Chantal Akerman after
Mm-hmm.
everything, which has also happened more directly and I guess more justifiably with an artist like Claude Lanzmann, who made Shoah, and who's, the whole project of that was something entirely different. So, anyways, just wanted to mention it because it's relevant, I suppose, in ways which we didn't expect would be with an artist like her, right? So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Shall we then move on
Is that
to a
it? You're not
very
speaking more about this?
uh, I mean, I don't want you to harass me in this episode, so I'm
That's
going
so
to
rude. You're making me sound
you
horrible.
you have literally spent the last 2 weeks since I saw this film saying I'm going to be mean to you, I'm going to bitch at
Yeah,
you
but
in the
that's just
episode,
for
I'm going
fun,
to
I'm saying,
lecture.
not for.
I don't trust you. Anyways, but
This is rude, anyways.
no, I have this to say. I appreciate the film a lot, but it's not my
I
cup of
didn't
tea.
I
I
didn't
think.
do the thing which I would have done otherwise, where it's like which I'll do now actually to transition. We are transitioning to films which Chris likes, which do not feature women and not directed by women. So yeah,
They feel
But
so
have
one of the
Jean
there is a
I
Moreau, actually.
woman.
It is
There is
one
huh?
one
woman.
woman.
there is one
That too,
woman.
Jean Moreau, the iconic French actress.
What is
Yeah,
this
yeah,
erasure,
yeah.
sir?
But that film is also No Country for Old Women, right? It's all about like how old women are essentially uh, have no role in what is it? What's the place called? Port? What is the port? Brest.
Yes. Yeah.
Breast.
Amazing, of course. Yeah. So, sorry, this section will involve like all this sort of double entendre because the whole film is a bit wild.
The
Chris, go
film is a
ahead.
double lot down in its own
Yes,
right.
basically.
But
Yeah.
yes, the second film that we have in mind at the very other end of the sort of aesthetic and everything
Mhm.
kind of spectrum is Werner Fassbinder's Querelle, 1982.
Each man kills the thing he loves. Each man kills the thing he loves. Da da da, da 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 da.
It is an adaptation of Jean Genet's Querelle de Brest, which is a novel, and the screenplay is written by Fassbinder and Burkhard Dreist. It stars Brad Davis, Franco Nero, Jean Moreau, Lauren Mallet, and Hanno Poschel. Cinematography is by Xaver Schwarzenberger, edited by Julian
And one
Lorenz.
more, huh? The DOPs. There's Joseph Vavra also.
Okay, that's not listed on Wikipedia,
Sure.
so
Okay.
apologies.
Sorry. Whatever it was.
And the music is by Pierre Rabin. The film is surprisingly in English,
Yes.
despite the fact
Yeah.
that it is a sort of French and West German film. It premiered at Venice, where at the time jury president said he wanted that it get the Golden Lion, but he was the only one who was in favor of it. And I think a Wim Wenders
Wim
film
Wenders
ended up
film one.
winning.
Yeah. State
Mm.
of Things, I
The
think. The
State of
State
Things
of
ended up
Things.
winning
Yeah.
the Golden Lion that year. The summary courtesy IMDb is very short and simple. A handsome sailor is drawn into a vortex of sibling rivalry, murder, and explosive sexuality. Which
Very
is
apt. I mean, that's the only way to describe this, I think,
it
succinctly.
is, and
Yeah.
I mean it's that kind of a thing, right? To me, the film is either describable in one line or not at all.
Yeah.
It exists
Yeah.
in that kind of this thing. But for me, and I'm going to start with this because this is my favorite film of this lot, and I adore it
Mm.
to no end. But this is to me what I mean of queer expression as aesthetic excess, right? And I mentioned, I think earlier that I've seen two of Fassbinder's films and a little bit of Berlin Alexanderplatz. And Fassbinder is very much kind of has got that formalist strain to it. His films are very sort of they're it said that he's had a very diverse like aesthetic sensibility because he made
Mhm.
45 films in 15 years. He
Yeah.
died at the age
Mental.
of 37,
Yeah,
which was
that's crazy.
Yeah.
in the middle of editing Querelle.
Querelle,
So this
yeah.
was his last
Mm.
film. So he's made a crazy amount of stuff. And the two films I have seen are more different, are much different than something
That's
like
just to sort of
Querelle.
add to it, it's like basically melodrama, the ascetic melodrama, if you want to say what
Yeah,
you were
closer
talking
to,
about.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that is the Bitter Tears of Petra von Kant and World on a Wire, which is kind of the proto Matrix. It's a very, very
Mm.
interesting film.
Mm.
I'd highly recommend
Is
for
it a
those who are a fan.
show or no?
It's a two-part TV series
Okay.
/ film, extended film kind of a thing. But
Okay.
it's very much the sort of bones of what you'd see in something like The
Matrix.
Matrix. So
Okay.
any
Which
fans
we
of
will
those
get
highly
to.
recommend.
We'll not get to the Matrix, but we'll get to
But
the
we'll talk about
makers.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
So those films are very aesthetically interesting, but like I said for Meeting in Savannah, I appreciate them, but I don't love them because I don't feel an
Mhm.
emotional connection to them at all. Even though like Bitter Tears especially is a seminal camp text which scholars like Jacques Bouchot and Sontag have written about considerably. I just
Well, it
never.
features two women, right?
Sure, sir. Again, you're saying this the year I'm about to start waxing lyrical about Mother Mary, so you're not allowed to go there.
Yeah.
That is also directed by a man about two women. So, anyways,
Of always
so
risky, that is.
true. But no, so Querelle is at the absolute other end to say that I don't even know how to describe what the aesthetics of this film are, other than it's like a psychedelic nightmare of some sort. It's
I'd say
very like
I'd say it's hyper. It's like basically total filmmaking combined with Brechtian filmmaking, which is like essentially hyper melodrama and hyper meta, almost like staginess or
hyper
whatever you want to.
reality and
Yeah,
that
yeah,
kind
whatever
of
that
What I
juxtaposition.
really
jargon.
like about it is that it strikes the perfect balance of taking itself seriously. Like it
Yes.
just knows how
Yeah.
seriously it needs to take itself, not a bit less, not a bit more. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Fassbinder's aesthetic influences are also sort of representative there because a lot of this is directly inspired by Tom of Finland, who's a very
Mhm.
famous queer artist. If you see the character of Mario, so he drew a lot of like Leathermen and like a lot of like gay subcultures, and he is this kind of exaggerated sort of aesthetic. So you've got huge bulging muscles, a big bulge, if you know what I mean. Lots of skin tight leather, a corpse, that kind of an aesthetic. I think Scorpio rising and things like that.
It's got a little
So
noir strain to it also, with the whole murder mystery going on, like in a sort of different
definitely.
universe. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that kind of aesthetic inspiration of a kind of order and chaos, sort of chaotic order kind of a thing to it. So what works about Querelle to me is, I mean, Ashwin was, for example, talking about how the dubbing is almost Suspiria levels of bad. And a lot of it is, the story is meandering. It goes from it is tonally strange. The plot lines and characters have very little to do with each other, but it is that kind of expression of masculinity, sexuality, aggression, the relationship between death and sex and violence in this kind of in its excesses, in a way to say that I can only express it in such a way, and even this is unable to capture the depth and vastness of what I'm talking about. And that's what
And
I
all of
enjoy
this is
about
said, by the way, like the
all of it
death,
is
sex,
said.
sailor, water, that begins the movie. So it's like literally a narrator speaks all this.
And it's
Yeah,
the lot of the narration is directly pulled
from the
from
book.
the book. I think it's the first line of the opening chapter is the opening narration of
Sure.
Querelle.
Mm.
And so the idea that idea of so apologies for again my academic jargon. There's the psychoanalytical idea of eros and thanatos, of the sex drive and the
Mhm.
death drive, is these two intention forces, and that's what kind of the film navigates. I think for me, it's the wonderful scene which again reminded me of Beau Travail, as Dhruv had said, mentioned earlier, which is the two
A perfect
brothers,
film.
quote
Sorry.
unquote.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the two brothers, quote unquote, have a knife fight which plays out as choreography, as the two dancing
Yeah.
in rhythm opposite each other. In that, and there's a whole queerness as narcissism angle to it, because it is, you two look so much alike each other, but also the whole
Family
vertigo-esque
bonding session
angle
and
of
also is there, huh?
family
Quite a
bonding.
bit. Like
No,
the
the thing is,
incestuousness of it is very
I'm
much.
surprised you haven't
Yeah.
mentioned Vertigo. Like,
yeah,
I
the
Yeah.
whole
mean,
vertigo thing with the character of Querelle having to dressing up this murderer as his
As
quote
this
unquote
brother.
brother.
Hmm.
Mm.
Which again,
Yeah.
I wanted to know what your reading of the ending is, because the ending John character says you don't have a brother. So the
Yeah.
question of was, are they actually just lovers who are pretending to be brothers, or how that are they both brothers and lovers? How you see that panning out to me is also very interesting. But it's this idea, I think it's succumbing to sexuality and pleasure and desire in this, which also is there something in Strangers by the Lake, but both aesthetically and narratively is what makes this film really interesting to
Yeah.
me. It's a deeply, deeply sexual, like psychosexual.
The
Everything of
weird
it
the
is,
weird thing is I was scrolling through IMDb to look at the credits and all that. And
yeah.
you
Mm.
scroll through the parental guidance thing and they have like those mild, severe or whatever.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
sexuality thing on this was mild. I was like, excuse me, who is watching this movie? Like, I mean, there is not
I
a
mean,
single frame in this which doesn't like have a sort of
It's not sexually
font.
charged.
Yeah, it's like everything. Like the lighting has like that. It's got more gold than a freaking Sanjay Leela Bhansali set does. Like
I
the
was saying that
golden
the
light
first
color
sex
of it.
scene
Yeah,
reads like it's out of like Twilight or something, where they're like sparkling
yeah, they're
as
sparkling. Yeah, and like
as they have sex. Yeah.
and it's like overly lit and it's like almost like the lighting is so sharp that it feels like it's going to like scorch the screen or something because it's
yeah.
got that sort of aesthetic like excess to it. But yeah, sorry, go ahead. Ashwin and Prakhar, you've seen this the first time, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Both of you. So me, Chris has seen this a rewatch, and for me also it's been a rewatch. So Prakhar, you go first, and then Ashwin can go.
ठीक है. I'll start with what I really loved about the film,
Yeah,
because we have established this is not my genre. This is not the
yeah,
space of cinema that I particularly enjoy.
yeah,
Reason being, in my mind, a film is something that brings together a lot of various elements that it is made of and makes something happen that is not possible anywhere but a film. And when that balance a film is able to strike, it works for me. Here you can see the patchiness of it. It borrows from how novels work, it borrows from how theater productions work. It slips between these literary formats, and this is something enjoyable, but again, not my cup of tea. But what I do love about it is how it takes your very traditionally masculine spaces. So you have your sailors, and you have drug deals, and you have brothels, and then it subverts everything with making your sexual prowess as the top form of power, and it sort of marries the idea of power with this game that they're playing, which was very fascinating to me. What it sort of seemed to be doing two things. One is it is taking queerness to the places that are conventionally not considered and claiming space there, and at the same time pointing out the queerness of these places that already exists. So the kind of man-on-man bonding is always so homoerotically charged. If you look at how men come together to love sports, and the whole
Oh,
stadiums,
yeah.
the physicality of it, the whole
I'm sorry, I couldn't look past
Sorry,
the.
continue.
I couldn't hear past the coming together bit. Sorry.
I thought you were getting this thing about me being like sports is homophobic, but like anything.
Okay, no, no, no,
but
no. I
but
just can't
these
look past the
spaces.
puns of it now because I'm just like, it's just like they make themselves up,
Get
sort
your
of. Yeah.
mind
I
out of the
think I
gutters
think
and
that's probably the Querelle effect. You watch
Yeah, yeah,
it
it
and then
is.
you just
You feel a bit dirty, honestly,
no, no,
like
but
a bit of a
just one
pervert.
thing. Yeah, one thing I want to add is I think the idea that sailors are and all of these spaces are sort of as homoerotic or not homoerotic as this sort of heterosexual spaces, I think comes from the fact that how much queer knowledge that we lack as a society because for
Hmm.
example so my research is in queer language. So it's in, for example, this the idea of, for example, camp and all of these terms, they come from a language called
Hmm.
Polari, which is a language that was spoken in the UK or in England, where gay men would speak to each other
Hmm.
without
Hmm.
being caught by the police because homosexuality or
Hmm.
sodomy was a crime back then. So that comes originally from a language called Argot or another kind of middle language or kind of which was spoken mainly by sailors and thieves, which
Hmm.
were very homosocial spaces or even sort
Yeah.
of homosexual in not gay as we perceive it today, but homosexual in the sense that men who had sex with men because of the fact
Hmm.
that they were isolated spaces
Yeah,
where women
Hmm.
or that kind of society was inaccessible to them. So it's
Hmm.
yeah,
these what Genet opens the book itself like that these
Hmm.
are spaces where male sexuality actually thrives and
hmm,
that we
Hmm.
are unaware of it because we have a certain image of what homosociality looks like, what male spaces look like versus what heteronormativity is. So I think what Querelle does is actually inform us or almost kind of puncture into the reality of it that we don't
Hmm.
see, not subvert in as much as it makes different what is what is there, but exposes to us what is really there and our and brings to fore our biases and how we see these things, which is also I think something that Baudrillard does for a certain extent. That's
yeah,
what, yeah.
But this is something that I was trying to get at, and thanks, Chris. You've like put it really together well with the kind of theoretical understanding you have, because these spaces are are in so many ways homoerotic, but because there has to be constant detachment of what heterosexual masculinity is and what is ought to be the most correct form of being a man. There's like these uh, the fact that a lot of bonding, a lot of conventionally considered masculine spaces have undercurrents of homoeroticism is constantly ignored, not even ignored, it's just like not acknowledged at all. And what Querelle does really well is sort of turn that to the faces of people who are constantly in denial
yeah,
of this. So the two things that it does while being as campy as it is.
yeah,
So there's such serious thought to it, but at the same time, it is such fun.
hmm,
It is a fun film to watch. So that's what made it a good viewing experience for me. But I
yeah,
don't think I would go back to it again because it
uh-huh,
demands too much of me
yeah.
as somebody who enjoys other kind of films. Yeah.
Ashwin?
Yeah, I love this one.
Hmm,
It's
Hmm.
like, I love the artifice and the
hmm,
whole sex thing and how desire for other men like completely like conflicts with traditional ideas of masculinity, and I think the entire film is about that in a way, and I find it very funny and tragic at the same time. In all of the sex scenes, like you can say, like in the initial sex scene, that
hmm.
guy, he keeps when he's initiating it, during the wordplay, he keeps talking about like his sister. He's like, your sister is so
Paulette,
pretty.
right? I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah. Paulette, yeah, yeah. So like it has to be like he has to deny that he's
Yeah,
having sex. guy. Like
Mm.
the
You
need to
look
do
a
that.
lot like your sister.
Yeah,
I'm like,
you look a lot
okay.
like
I
your
mean,
sister.
you
You're like
can
so
just
pretty. So
admit.
that's why I'm fucking you. Like, he
Yeah.
has to be
It's
like
very similar to a scene later, the interaction between Gil and what's this other guy's name? Who
The main
comes
guy.
to
Oh no. Oh no,
so
the
no no
kid
No,
no.
only.
same
Theo.
only.
The
Gilles and
same, the
Roger,
kid.
no? Same.
Yeah.
Ha
Yeah, yeah.
ha 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 ha.
It's the same guy, Roger or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Roger
yeah.
and Gilles, yeah.
Yeah.
Georgie,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. When he comes to him and he's about to make a case, and the point where Gilles and our Querelle get connected ultimately, this one guy
Yes.
facilitates
Yes,
it.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And when they are in that abandoned sort of space,
Hmm.
Tabbi, he mostly refers to him as, if you were a woman, you would make for such a pretty woman.
Yes.
And then it's you also look like such a pretty woman. Constant, like, linguistically there's like denial of whatever that's
Yeah.
happening, but it is happening right
Yeah.
on your screen. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I think, no, sorry, Ashwin, please go
Yeah,
ahead.
go on.
No, I think what it also does, and that is very interesting to me, is how it even deals, which to me is really subversive, is how it deals with homosexuality itself, which is that there's a kind of general societal idea, and this you can go trace as back as to the Greeks, that the homosexual partner in the homosexual interaction is the receiving partner, what we call the bottom. And that's, so there's, again, great, if you want literature on it, there's a paper by queer scholar Leo Bersani called Is a Rectum a Grave? It has to do with AIDS.
You link it, we will put it in the description.
In the
Yeah.
description. And it has to
what
do,
a title though.
it's a fascinating, and it's similar to this at the very cusp or of the AIDS, or that's about AIDS in the middle of the AIDS epidemic. This film comes out right at the cusp, so it's in 82, so right as the AIDS epidemic is sort of flaring up. But and to me it's that scene that you're talking about, Prakhar, where Gilles and Querelle are interacting with each other. One of the things that, so the idea is that the receiving partner is a homosexual, and the idea of male sexuality as this doesn't care what the object it's just this force which can apply to anything.
Yeah.
On the other hand, in that interaction, what Querelle says instead is, I'm falling in love with Gilles, and to express it, I must be the one who
Yeah,
enacts
active
Right.
participant,
the
right?
active parts.
This,
And it is
this is
actually,
what I was talking about. As like, sorry, like the
no,
tragic part of it. Like I
Sure.
found it sad. Like they're like so right for each other, like mentally, but like he can't do it. It's like two bottoms falling in love. Like so, yeah. Go on. Like so, it was like it was so funny and tragic at the
Yeah.
same time.
no,
Yeah,
what
I
it
think what
says is that to
Go ahead.
receive pleasure is without gender or sexuality, because it is for your own self-affirmation, it's for whatever your self-pleasure. But to be the giving partner, to be aroused at someone requires you to be of a certain sexuality, because you are the one who's enacting it onto someone. So it's a
So
really great subversion
do
of.
you think it's basically when you're, so what I had written just now actually is that, can the object of desire be the lover? Or this whole idea that can queer desire cross over into queer love? So the whole idea that what you were saying, in the sense that because he's the one on the receiving end for most of the film, he's fine with it, and maybe he can find an excuse for the fact that he is being exploited. But what happens when he is the one who has the desire to engage in a relationship like that, is when the whole, each man, which she sings wonderfully, Jean Moreau, like for multiple times, each man kills the thing he loves, which is consistently happening in this whole thing. Like whatever active desire he has, is he's having to be a murderer essentially for that, right? So
I think that's why the contrast of desire is the lieutenant, right? The lieutenant
yes,
doesn't
who you
engage
relate
in
to.
he's just like me for real, but like
Okay.
Who want to relate to Franco Nero? Like he's like the boy he's amazing. Yeah.
he's amazing. It's again,
He has
it's the queer blue moon, that kind
Right.
of old desperate
He's
queen
the
thing.
Gilles Santan, or not Gilles Santan, was the Galoop from
Galoop
Botrava.
character from
But
Botrava.
he has such Dear Diary personality.
So his entire thing is that he doesn't engage in any queer sex in the entire film, but
Except
it
for
is him,
right, that thing, young men.
right, that then
What is it?
need
Young.
big cocks or something
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
that.
Looks like big cocks or something.
Yeah.
And so the idea is that it's his expression of his desire for Querelle, a very verbalized idea of how his desire for Querelle can be a way for him to get be desired by the other men, other sailors, and reinforce his power and things like that. But it's that it's how Querelle refers to him, right? So when he's telling Gilles to rob the lieutenant, he says, "Oh, she's he's an old queen,"
Queen,
which is to say that is the first time the queerness is applied derogatorily when you're applying it to an identity and not merely the sort of the act of sexuality, which is deprived of the character of sexuality or gender itself. And it's in that, and the to me the most heartbreaking scene is where Karen actually listens to the tape, and the lieutenant has to walk in on him, standing there undeniably having to acknowledge his desire, which is more shameful than actually having gay sex. I think that's it's not the partners being
because it
exploited.
confirms it. No, I think the whole idea that there can be something which is,
it becomes not merely I am experiencing pleasure for my own sake, which is a very self-directed act. How it happens is none of my business. On the other hand, the other is an admission of I am diseased, I am a degenerate, or however you want to I am ailed, however you frame queerness in any context. I have a problem within me is to be the giving partner or the one who desires, but to be desired is to be without sexuality or gender or all of these norms on you, which is a complete subversion of how societal norms present homosexuality at least. That's like the very philosophically, but also like emotionally a character that I really
I mean, it's also
because
go ahead, Prakhar.
because it was just adding to Chris's point, where the act of it and also to be the object of desire can constantly be stripped off the context. Nothing beyond and above it applies, but to be harboring that desire is an admission and a confirmation. And it really is. I actually did not feel the depth of how emotional that scene is, but now hearing you and then I'm playing it in my head, it really is a very sad scene.
Yeah, I think so I rewatched it and I'm just gonna like try to not even summarize. I'm just trying to say what all the film is and more than whatever you guys have described, and then sort of move from it to the other one. But I think it's more on the lines of I struggled this time, I think more than the first time, to access the emotional bits of the film. I think the form was a little too overwhelming for me. Like the formal dissonance was. So it there are moments when I think the film just catches fire, and then there's the cut to white screen where it's like a text where it has to fill in for the bits they probably couldn't film, or for the bits where Jean Moreau was not there. Because there are bits with her where it's basically like, yeah, she had less role in the conversation from now, and I'm like, okay, there's clearly like a production issue. But I was actually very interested by her in this, her role in all this time also, just because how much it's basically like, you don't want me, so you basically you will, to all the men in the room, she's basically like, I'm just here for the sake of it. And I think there's one fairly heartbreaking scene with her and Querelle towards the end, where he's like, why, she's like, why are you with me? And he's like, I'm taking revenge for my brother, and then from my brother. And she's like, what about me? And she repeats it 2-3 times, what about me, what about me? And in that sense, I think the whole idea, and I'm pretty sure the narrator says it once, where it's about the whole idea of one of the partners substituting to become the woman by eliminating the woman itself from the picture. So I think that was a interesting angle to it, which I didn't sort of think about the first time when I watched it. Apart from that, I thought just the excesses of it are quite wonderful most of the time. To me, I've only seen one more Fassbinder before this, and that's totally stripped down, absolutely Bresson-esque sort of. I saw what's Ali Fears the
Ali,
Soul.
yeah,
Yeah, that
it's
one.
very.
So that was a play on Douglas Sirk melodramas. So that's a totally different ball game. But this is overflowing. Everything is, and which is like a sort of floodgates have been opened. Editor has gone to holiday. Let's just or script writer has also gone to holiday. Which again, I think, because when we'll talk about Stranger by the Lake, sorry, there's a sort of formalist strain that comes into it. I think there's a worthy argument to be made that Querelle, sorry, that's how it's pronounced apparently, right? So Querelle is the sort of formal and narrative and thematic sort of behemoth of a sort of queer cinema, because I think the formalist strain of like the formal excesses of it are sort of like even looked down upon actually in many ways. It is very shambly, it is very uncontrolled, very ill disciplined in a way which I also struggle with sometimes, because I'm just like, I need some sort of discipline. This is just too out of control at times, where I'm just like, just
Mm.
just settle on one story, please. Because there's like this whole idea, the alternative narrative just springs out of nowhere with the murderer, and then we are making the murderer the vertigo sort of thing happens with, dressing him up as
You
the
know,
brother.
I broadly divide films between films that make you think with them and the films
Yeah,
that make you think after having viewing them.
yeah.
I enjoy the ones that make you think with them.
With them,
And
huh?
this
Because they
is
give you
this
the
is the
time,
one,
right? Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes. They really take you
yeah,
but this falls in the other
yeah,
bracket where there's so much constantly happening and you have
yeah,
to just take all of that, and then when you sit with it, sure, like we are sitting with it now and
yeah,
there's
yeah,
so much to talk about.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's
I mean,
just, bolo, Chris, sorry.
no, it's very interesting also about like how we view cinema, right? Because for me, I would say it's exactly the opposite with a film like Querelle
Mm-hmm.
Meeting Savannah.
Mm-hmm.
Because a film like Meeting Savannah, because it is uh, aesthetically sort of sterile or closed off, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
etc., I am only able to think about it and reflect on it after it's over. A
Indeed.
film like
Ah,
this,
okay.
I know immediately what it's going for, and I am with it at
Hmm.
every moment. So I
Yeah.
think that's also very different about how people's
It's very
tastes and how
subjective.
these
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
very
yeah,
very
yeah, totally.
subjective.
I mean, yeah, I
And again,
rewatched the opening of this like again, this is a very me thing because I slept like two, three times while watching it. But I rewatched the opening of it a couple of times, and I was just like, even in the opening, there's just like 15 things going on, and I'm like, I don't know what to focus
Yeah.
on. I'm just like so overwhelmed by it. This is the second, third, fourth watch also. I'm just like, she's doing like the Jean Moreau character is having her own thing. Then the brother angle is playing out. Then Querelle is coming out. Then there's the guy speaking on his tape recorder. Then there's like the whole side plot with Gilles and the guy, and then the person who he kills. Like there's like, and the film is not like swiftly moving through all these. It's really
Hmm.
like take all this and then like deal with it sort of approach, which I'm like, I appreciate it a lot for how out there it is, but it is fairly like, to me I was just like, okay, wait, I need like a break. And so when I watched the other film after this, I was like, oh god, like it's like someone like pressed like a pause button on a film, and I was just like, okay, I can relax a little bit.
no,
But
but
what
that
uh
I
that's what
love
I adore
was,
about. No,
yeah.
huh,
go ahead,
maybe
Prakhar.
go ahead, go ahead.
No, so what I love about it is that high art, low art. It's a very
Well,
classic kind of
it's a drug
distinction,
for you,
right?
na, essentially.
No, yeah, it's like imagine a film like this, which is so adjacent to pornography, so aesthetically shambolic, playing at Venice and being, in
Yeah,
competition
yeah,
for
yeah.
the
Mhm,
Golden Lion.
mhm.
Like
Mm.
that's that classic high art, low art,
Yeah, yeah, of course.
contrast and juxtaposition,
Yeah,
which I think really puts this film into perspective for me.
yeah, yeah.
And just one more point I'll throw to you, Prakhar, is you were talking about the Jean Moreau character, right? To
Mhm.
me, there's something very
Mhm.
interesting there also as I would say almost adjacent to a feminist critique, which is
Mhm.
Mhm.
essentially the idea that there's a whole, when you talk about homosociality, and a lot of feminist scholars have written
Mhm.
about it, it's
Mhm.
that women's role in the homosocial space is merely that of sort of sexual or domestic fulfillment.
Yeah,
And it is, if
Mhm.
men could have had sex with men, then there would be no role for women at all, which is again
Mhm.
how,
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
example, like the Greek practice of pederasty, and how women were second
Mhm.
class citizens, where men had sexual relations with other men or younger boys, went on. So there's like, this is a very, like, how patriarchy and misogyny and all
yeah,
of these things, how they create the affection between men in a sort of
Mhm.
non-erotic or non-romantic sense. But if you were able to bridge that gap as well in that setup, then
yeah,
the woman is not needed in society at all. And that is how sort of Jean Moreau's character becomes this
yeah.
redundant figure who is just a conduit for the sort
So,
of
Mhm.
male
Mhm.
sex to happen. Yeah.
sorry, Prakar, I'll just link this to the question Chris asked in the beginning about the
Mhm.
ending and sort of go about it and say that to me, the ending is about denial in the sense of her being that your brother does not exist, so I can have you, and I have some role to
Mhm.
play in this whole thing. So to me, it's a sort of return almost for all of them in the bar to that setup they had, so that whatever has occurred and whatever disruptions have occurred are sort of rectified at the moment. So to me, it was more than the sort of, a different thing about him actually. I think he is there, even though the final shot is of him like on that glass thing where he's like
No, not that
reflection
he's
shots.
not there, but is it that they're pretending to be brothers, but they're actually just lovers?
Yeah,
That is what
that's
she
what I
said.
was thinking
That's what
actually.
the
Okay, I
reading
didn't.
I
Okay,
had.
Yeah.
okay, I didn't.
Yeah,
I mean, okay, I didn't think about that
that's
then.
No,
Yeah.
that's what
especially
I
with
thought
the
also that.
Okay.
same
Huh.
actor playing like Jill and the brother,
Oh, yeah,
no?
the same actor
Yeah, yeah,
playing. Yeah.
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 Yeah, yeah. So like with the birth certificate, that's what as Chris said. That's what I was also thinking, which will
Okay.
also like leads into that the whole very funny sexual jealousy thing. Like
Yeah.
this Nono is like the big bull guy,
Yes.
and then his wife, and then the brother guy, and this our girl, and
Hmm.
like there is a point where this Nono basically taunts the brother, saying like
Yes.
it's not like you're ugly or anything, but I never
I
wanted to
do.
fuck you. Like, yeah, just for the
Yeah.
sake of it. And he just gets riled up,
Yeah.
because of that.
Hmm.
So it's as if like the squirrel and the brother are like, like lovers, and
Hmm.
then they're doing some sort of a very weird, psychologically kinky sexual play thing with like a heterosexual couple. There's a lot of power play going around. So like
Yeah.
I adore this complete nonsense of it. So
Just
like yeah,
the
this is
amount of
amazing.
joy on Chris's face right now. It's like
Because he can see like someone is going there
Yes.
like
Yeah.
someone who gets
No,
it,
but
I
it is
guess.
very in that sort of dress up idea. It is very Vertigo, which Chris had mentioned which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
like
yeah.
every favorite film of this podcast. A lot of it like circles back to Vertigo.
Everything is vertigo
So,
eventually.
like, which is a very weird sort of if affliction we have, I suppose, in some ways. But
Yeah.
no,
Prakhar, you were.
Prakhar, you were saying, yeah.
I was just saying for me also the ending is like this whole circle that it makes, but if
Hmm.
the starting point is let's say a representation of homosexual desire, it
Hmm.
circles and sort of merges the idea of brotherhood and
Hmm.
that desire
Love.
साथ में,
Hmm.
and that sort of makes sense why you have this storyline that starts with a mysterious brother or almost like a long lost figure,
Yeah.
and the way the whole treatment has been to subvert ideas of hypermasculinity, and it ultimately sort of merges with it. That is why also in the beginning I was saying it nearly reminded me of the last sequence Animal ka, where
Mm-hmm.
they have this
Animal, this is
so
the film directed
erotically
by.
charged.
I mean, I was just
uh,
clarifying. Animal directed by Mr. Sandeep Reddy Vanga, not some
अपन को ऐसे
other
कान तो
animal.
नहीं पकड़ना पड़ेगा ना to show respect, because
No, but we
he's
are
sort
not the
of
ones
the
who like
flag
it. No,
bearer of
the
cinema
the
with a spine
person, the
now.
mystery person on this podcast or in this episode who likes it will have to pakdo his Khan if we reveal who it is.
And that is not me. Before any long-time listeners
And
who
it's
have
not
heard
Prakhar
Animal.
automatically because I said he. So you can guess between me
This,
and Ashwin who likes it.
this is so wrong. See, I don't like it.
But I'm seeing a
I
pattern
didn't even
here.
out you,
Okay?
sir. Come on, let them believe I like
Oh,
it.
wow, wow, yeah.
I'm seeing a pattern here. Dhruv is
Self-report.
sort of an in-house bully. He constantly puts people on spot like that. Oh,
Yeah, I know.
I have to have some role, no, Prakhar. Otherwise,
I
what
have
else
a
do I
new fear
contribute
now.
to?
If I come to more episodes, I am like I'm heading there. Bullying awaits me.
Listen, I'll tell you why the bullying happens. Because on the group, I am bullied roundly by all of them. So,
Um,
okay.
excuse me?
Uh,
No.
Chris, you
No.
don't even shake your head, okay? I will like literally, you, Varun, and all of them are like literally on my like head all the time. Ashwin is nice, so my bullying of him is wrong, I think. But anyways, it's fine. He doesn't like Veer Zara, so it counts. So,
Yeah, but that is what I was saying. The reason why it reminded me was the final sequence of Animal is so also, especially that fight, it is so sexually charged, whether they're both shirtless, there's like
yeah, yeah.
um unleashed expression of emotion. And
Hmm.
I don't know, I read it somewhere that they were supposed to kiss or whatever, but I don't know whether it's
I
just like
think
a me.
that is a theory. I think that too. I mean, I can't
Yeah,
imagine
that's a
Sandeep
that's
Reddy
a
Vanga.
touch too far for Sandeep Reddy.
Yeah. Weirdly
Um,
enough, the Prakhar, when you were talking about the brothers, coming. So this is what happens. This is the Bollywood rotted brain which we have. I start thinking of Karan Arjun. because there's also a point
Hmm.
where they're talking
ये
about
बंधन तो
the
प्यार का बंधन है
हाँ,
जन्मों
Yeah,
का
जन्मों
there's
का
सौंदर्य.
there's a similar reading for your what is that? Kal ho na ho as well.
वो तो we've discussed actually queer.
We did an
This has
Yeah.
done
episode
a
on
film
it.
queer reading of that whole film. So no, but because also there's the whole angle that they were the mother was there they slept on the same bed with their poor mother by their side
Hmm.
in this they are in Querelle this is this. So
Yeah.
Karan
But
Arjun is like a natural extension point, no?
even in the final interactions, like right before the end, where Querelle and Jill are having a conversation, and it sort of evolves into Querelle realizing and also trying to place himself where he is when it comes to his connection to this man, who clearly now looks like his brother because he's in that getup and everything. There was a very interesting line there. He says, a strange feeling of respect and curiosity, something that he feels towards him, which is very applicable to how like the men relationships and hierarchies also world, if you just
Yeah.
take out all the homoeroticism, which they just do not acknowledge.
Yeah.
It starts from there, and it goes to a point where he has a way to define what he's feeling, where he says that to love or to acknowledge or to accept this desire is to be somebody, as this put it together, is the giving partner.
Yeah.
And it's almost like in the utterance of it, he also becomes. So you utter your existence and you utter your world into being. So that is what and it's almost to the uninitiated type ka end, where I've already laid it out for you, but let me emphasize it again. There was no brother.
Yes.
And yeah, and also what makes it interesting is without sort of transgressing into the incestuous trap that a lot of the times queerness is also taken to be, well, like
Hmm.
anytime you want to show some sort of tabooed idea, or anytime you want to transgress into something that's a deviation, you
Hmm.
would just simply jump on an opportunity like that. But without falling into any of those traps, it is able to establish it and also able to show it without any physical interaction between the two. When Gilles is the brother personality for sure.
Yeah. I think though that might also just be a censorship restriction. I would think that Werner Fassbinder would have like gone ham with this if he had the option
Um,
because this is very explicit for a 1982 film in any case, I
yeah.
think, and it was very controversial, unsurprisingly. So
I mean,
um,
it's a really interesting time also for queer cinema, because I think the
yeah.
1970s up to the early 1980s, before AIDS,
Hmm.
was the wild west when it
Yeah.
comes to queer cinema. This is when you get your John Waters and all of these filmmakers coming in. You get the queer pornography movement. This is simultaneously to the golden age of porn, which
Hmm.
is said to begin with a heterosexual pornography film called Deep Throat, but it's actually a lot of acknowledgement is that it's preceded by a film which I will mention when we talk about Stranger by the Lake. But queer filmmaking takes a big, because the 1970s was, the rise of the hippie movement, and was a time where it is after Stonewall in the US and other queer rights movement in Europe and in the UK and all of that. So this is the era where you start getting like absolutely zany queer art, which would then get a
Mm.
little bit stifled by AIDS, but then would come back in the new queer movement and things like
And
that.
then now become sterilized into commercial art, right? Essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now
I
you
mean,
get
that's the
your
critique,
fan
I
fiction
think.
slop, basically.
I guess so. Anyways, what we will move on to is not fan fiction slop at all, actually. So,
It is
uh,
absolutely not. But it's a very interesting film, as Dhruv had pointed out, to talk about in context of these two, because I think
Mm.
it acknowledges a really sort of interesting modern intersection of
hmm.
these two kind of aesthetic and film, like narrative
I
and
mean,
filmmaking
I said that this is
sensibilities.
Stranger by the Lake by Alain Guiraudie. Am I pronouncing this correctly?
Guiraudie, yeah.
Guiraudie, okay. This is essentially Querelle directed by Chantal Akerman for me. So this I did again. This is just a result of watching these films back to back. You make these connections as opposed to from like hypothesizing from before that we had selected it like this. But yeah, this film is wild in a sort of different register, which I think is a good
Very
way to
different
put it.
register.
Yeah.
So I'll just quickly introduce the film. So Stranger
Yeah.
by the Lake is directed by Alain Guiraudie, written also by him.
Ok, il est bronzé, il est musclé, il est bien foutu, mais je te jure qu'il est bizarre.
It stars Pierre Deladonchamps, Christophe Pau, and Patrick D. Assumpção. Cinematography by Claire Mathon, who also did the cinematography for Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Celine
very
Sciamma's
famously.
regular?
Regular,
Regular?
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's edited by Jean-Christophe Him, and it also has no background score and no music, which again Dhruv and now I know Prakhar adore.
Yeah.
It
Don't make us sound like people who hate background score always.
No, you
Yeah.
adore the lack of it. There's
I mean, if you use
on
it like
Twitter
the
what we call a pancakes and waffles tweet. That just because you say you like pancakes doesn't mean you
Yeah.
hate waffles. Okay.
See, I recently rewatched Jaws. I really understand the importance of
Yes.
it. Like it has been reiterated in my
This is a
heart.
great point because I was about to say that's a great reference point in a really odd way also with
Odd way,
Stranger by the Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyways.
It premiered at Cannes, where under the Uncertain Regard section, where it
Our
won
favorite.
Best Director, our
Yeah.
favorite, and it
Got it
also won the
competition.
it won the Queer Palm that year.
Yeah.
And its summary, courtesy IMDb: summertime, a cruising spot for men tucked away on the shores of a lake. Franck falls in love with Michelle, an attractive, potent, and lethally dangerous man. Franck knows this but wants to live out his passion anyway. Prakhar, I'm going to throw this to you. Thoughts on Stranger by the Lake?
Yes, I'm going to pick the first word in the IMDb summary. It says summertime. And the way this film is framed and all the expansive landscape it shows you, the lake, the sun, and the beauty of it. But it is it's almost like at an arm's distance, because between that beauty and you is this, of course, very mysterious narrative that this film is. And it is so minimalist in its approach, where you are given nothing more than, and I'm not even symbolically saying, you're given nothing more than bare bodies, because
Yeah.
you know nothing about these men. They come to these lake. There's a very interesting exercise that they do called cruising, where they're looking for any kind of connection. It can be physical. Our protagonist, Frank, is looking for something more. It's pretty evident. And how things sort of unravel. It kind of reminds you, or it speaks of the extents people are ready to go to cling on to this any mild form of connection that they're able to find in such a confusing big landscape where you're constantly supposed to wander. That is what the film seemed to be doing for me. And as I said earlier, I love a film that makes you think with it. It gives you enough breathing space. It's almost like you're there at the lake with them, and when the conversations are happening, films that sort of engulf you and make you like an omnipresent person there. This is what Stranger by the Lake did for me. So beautifully shot, so vulnerable. And I love a film that is so I have a thing about sex scenes where that came out so wrong, but in the sense that
Don't worry, Prakhar, we have had much
That's
worse.
exactly what we are looking for here.
Looking for, yes.
This is like real material.
oof,
This is my
I'm
brain.
going
See,
to be
this is
famous, not in the
this
best
does to
ways.
it. No.
Marketing.
Don't worry,
But
we will not put it.
what I'm trying to say
for you.
is it really has to work in the plot like
Yeah.
any other thing usually works. So the
Yeah.
way having sun and the lake in a story about Stranger by the Lake makes sense. The intimacy, the sex also has to make sense in that way for it to be really needed and to be really doing something for the film, which it does here. Other times it we all know it's used for so many other layers apart from it really being there.
Yeah.
And it also made me think about the question I began with, that what do we mean when we say very European? Because this film was so European for me, and I began
Yeah.
to think about what what does it mean when I think so European. And one of the things was the way um, movement of bodies and accessibility to certain things which would be either considered deviant here
Yeah.
or are simply just not possible for us to be free in that way,
Yeah.
is something I would categorize as very European. So the
Mm.
possibility of people just cruising by the lake and
Yeah.
finding intimacy there, and on top of that, with men, is
Yeah.
something that is so removed
Yeah.
from our and in the aesthetic and in the relaxed way that
Yeah.
it is shown. It's
Casual,
not
no, I
something
would say.
that's so casual, so
Hmm.
normal. If you bring that into the context here, that's like it's automatically wrapped in fear.
I
It's
mean, this will
automatically
not,
wrapped in hiding.
they will blur 15 body parts here, firstly, if you show this,
No,
in
even
being day
even
two.
this as a human experience.
Yeah.
If you were to imagine a lake in this part of the world,
Yeah.
or the same story in this part of the world, it is an experience that is inaccessible in so many
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah. Of
So,
course.
so that I think also made it very European for me,
Yeah.
because so many European things are
Yeah.
inaccessible in so many ways for
Yeah.
this part of the world.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Ashwin, you
Ashwin?
want to go? Yeah.
Yeah. So, like Prakhar was talking about the sun-drenched summery vibe. So
Mm.
like that made me think of there's this George Stevens film called A Place in the Sun. It's a
Mhm.
1950 film. It's based on an American novel called like An American Tragedy.
Mhm.
It's a similarly dark film about like um, the protagonist going into like extreme lengths for like selfish reasons. So it kind of mirrors our protagonist's journey in like Stranger by the Lake as well. So this one, I'm rewatching this for the pod, and I love it. It's just
Mhm.
it's probably it is my favorite film of this three films that we're
Mhm.
discussing today, and um, for me, it's like a Claude Chabrol film, like where you are introduced into like he usually introduces you into a community, and there'll be a couple of characters, and some you will get a hint that something sinister is going to happen,
Mhm.
but and but nothing really happens until the end. Just and the pressure just keeps building up.
Yeah.
It's like a
Mm.
very different flavor of suspense. Like
Yeah.
people always claim that Hitchcock is a master of suspense. I believe that Chabrol is like
Mhm.
kind of a superior version of it. So
Mhm.
I think here Alain Guiraudie is going for a similar kind of like a Chabrolian suspense here, because
Mhm.
you're introduced to this lake. We stay there the whole time. Every day you just see the cars that are like parked, and like who has come, who has left,
Mhm.
and
Mm.
so you're just dropped into this like sun-drenched nightmare, and then something bad is happening, something bad will eventually happen. So I just love that pressure cooker, like suspense of it all.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the sex scenes are they're like very primal and raw. That's the thing that
Mhm.
you can see in all of his films, like in Misericordia and
Or not. Actually, Misericordia is the flip of it, where
it is a
he,
flip,
yeah.
but like I mean,
The,
yeah,
the,
like
the, but what you're
idea is
talking about
always
is,
very primal, but
but
yeah,
the
yeah, correct,
simmering
correct.
thing is there throughout.
It,
So Prakash has
correct,
not
correct.
seen
Mm.
more Guiraudie, so I'm going to spoil
I
those.
mean,
But
even
I'm not.
in no, but even in
Ah,
something like
because I
that
plan to
old,
watch Mr. Cordia,
yeah,
so don't spoil it for me.
okay,
yeah,
okay.
that
Yeah,
old dream that moves, so much of it is just looking
Yeah, yeah.
with
Which is
Yeah.
40,
desire.
his
yes.
40-minute shot, I think, or something, which is
Fantastic
wonderful.
film.
Tremendous film also, yeah.
Yeah.
I think Misericordia is the only one we've talked a little bit about last year when we talked about favorites, because all of us had one favorite character, which again, I'm not going to spoil. So, Prakhar, you're in for a treat, I would just say, for
Mm.
Yeah,
Misericordia.
and
It's
there's
really
this
good,
other
yeah.
I'm
film
quite
called Staying
excited for it.
Vertical.
Yeah.
That's also a very primal film by this guy. So,
Mm.
uh, like for me, like when we are in Querelle, like we were talking about how like masculinity like stands in the way of desire, like in when it comes to like homosexuality in men. But here, it's like so we can see the difference in like the time span from the 1980s to 2010s. 2010s Western Europe. So basically,
Yeah.
as like Prakar was saying about accessibility, like compared to like lesbians or other queer communities, like gay people are like basically they're men. So men in general have like more access to like
Mhm.
they
Mm.
have like they can actually go and meet people at any
Mm.
time of night, like anywhere, and also so they have the opportunity to do things. That's how this cruising thing becomes like a thing
Mm.
among like gay men, because they can go out at night like at 2 a.m. and
Mm.
hook up with a stranger without
Mm.
being worried too much about getting stabbed or whatever. So like
Yeah.
so um so like in that context
Mm.
of it, like this is how like I feel like Alain Girardi is like saying like this is how it is that the gay men scene, sex scene, this is how it is, how I see it,
Mm.
like what the like the microcosm of that the whole thing
Yeah.
is being shown around that lake there. And I felt like he has like it's like a damning critique of that kind of a culture
Mm.
where like even if you know that this person is a literal murderer, and if you feel desire
Mm.
for him, you'll just go sleep with him. Like so that I
So
find it funny and a bit
yeah.
heartbreaking, because like as a counterpoint to this Michel, the murderer, we
Yeah.
have Henri,
Yeah.
this old rich gentleman who's
Mm.
just there, like he's not looking for sex, he's just sitting there, and
Mm.
uh, with whom like our Frank makes an emotional connection. Like
Mm.
they just simply sit together and talk and ask each other how their day went, and
Mm.
that comforts each other.
Mm.
There's an actual mental connection and emotional connection between them. So,
Mm.
but he's not looking for that there. Like he's looking for that emotional connection in this murderer. So it's very
Mm.
funny in certain ways, but it's
It
also
is. It is. Yeah.
heartbreaking. It
Yeah.
heartbreaking at the end. Like the ending shot of this, it's like my God, it's
Oh,
haunting. In
Yeah.
fantastic.
I think like since you mentioned like this is Querelle directed by Akerman, like I want to compare the
Hmm.
final shots of those two things.
Hmm.
Like there you can see her like Anna like on in the side like partially lit like in the
Yeah. Yeah.
dark. She has all these opportunities and she's
Yeah.
completely alienated from the world.
Hmm.
This guy is looking for like meaningful connection in the
Yeah.
worst possible option that he has, and he's
Yeah.
completely in the dark, like he's
Yeah.
possibly to die
Yeah.
uh, like 2 minutes after they cut to black. So
Yeah.
like it's incredible. I love the movie.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah, I mean, it's
compare
like
it.
if death is what it takes, because he's seen
Yes.
all he needed to see.
Yeah.
Everything is in front of him.
Hmm.
It lights have gone out, and I kept thinking to myself, "Don't call out, boy. Matlab, just be wiser, be wiser." And he just in
Yeah.
the end he calls out to him. Like my
Yeah.
heart broke. Like, dude, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, again, it's very, I mean, I've seen it again also. Chris, you want to go first or do you
No,
want
no,
me to
you
go
go ahead.
first? Okay.
Go ahead.
So basically, I mean, I'm with Ashwin and Prakhar. This is my favorite also of the three, which I did not expect, to be honest. I loved this before, but this time I was just like a bit bowled over by how good the formalism was in it. Simple things carry so much like weight. This is like basic cutting, basic like. I mean, the point of view shot is a big thing. I mean, it's the way it's utilized here. I think is just mind-bogglingly good. Like I'm like, if you want to create, there's like ways of teaching how suspense build-up works in a sort of
Yeah, yeah,
without
yeah.
your sort of stock music. Sorry, this is again my sort of becoming my BGM as bad thing, but no, but it's not that. It's just the way this uses diegetic sound and just the way the camera like pans across and to whom it stops and the way when it moves to a point of view shot. One of my favorite moments, two of them actually. One of them is with whilst they are both are swimming, and this is early on
Mhm.
in the narrative, and he's looking at him from afar, and he's like moving out of the frame essentially, and our main character Frank turns back, uh, and you get like this discontinuous sort of, it breaks the continuity where then he just, there's a cut where he just like swims past him, whereas when once you had seen him he was like swimming like far away from him, so you automatically get that sense of danger and fear being
Hmm.
applied in that microcosmic second. And my other favorite of this is when he's seen the murder, the first murder
Mhm.
happen, which is
Yeah,
like
yeah,
this
yeah.
extraordinary long take, which like just keeps on like tracking and seeing where this guy is moving. So the next time he meets him and sees him coming out of the water, the camera just fixates on him, and then it fixates, and it's like in a way where I think it begins as a sort of low angle shot of this guy where the guy is coming out of the water. But by the
Yeah.
time he comes up, it becomes a low angle point of view shot of the guy. So he like is like towering over his
Yeah.
frame. And it's like very basic stuff, but like done to like the best of abilities. Is the sort of stuff I like loved. Of course, as a queer film, it's as queer film, not in terms of just the fact that it features sex, but it is about the whole idea of queer desire and what all it encompasses in the whole idea of the physical and the emotional and whatever gray area is there between. I think he is seeking, Ashwin, I think he is seeking emotional connection. He's just seeking it with a hot guy in his hot
Absolutely.
guy
I know,
available,
yeah.
I need
which
to
is what he
connect.
says
It has to
also.
be hot. Yeah.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
what he
You want
says
to have it
also.
all, no? That's the
Yeah,
whole
which is
idea.
what he also says. Henri says, I think, at one point that, he is he's a sexy man with a tanned body and everything.
But he's
But
so
after,
weird, don't you
yeah,
realize?
yeah, you lead someone else also. It just doesn't work like that. And I love, it's actually very funny, the film, with
It
one of
is.
the
It
character,
is.
with that one character who keeps on like wanting that sexual
Masturbating.
connection.
The
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
The
the
onlooker.
voyeur, no?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I
No,
love,
and
he's like, we are talking right now. You can come later and watch us when we are having sex. So I'm just like,
And he's also so polite about it. Like,
yeah, he's very polite. He's like, okay,
okay.
just pulls the shots up and then walks
yeah, yeah,
away.
yeah.
And
And then
it's
there's that
funniest
very
thing is
awkward,
like,
I think there's a link between, to be honest, between him and our protagonist in the sense that they are both seeking this connection. And there's that scene which when he gives him a blowjob at the beach, and then he just in the most awkward way gets up and walks out and says like thank you and just walks off. And I think that's what he's trying to get the protagonist from this guy who consistently like is like, no, I will not come for dinner with you. We don't want anything apart from this time
It's
we
a
spend at the
series of
beach.
who has an upper hand in the scenario.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
like it's that hierarchy that keeps playing out, and also matlab, makes a very clear point about
yeah,
how pretty people have it easier.
yeah, yeah.
And so that
Yeah,
pretty
because I think
brilliant
one of the
for
things I think
sure.
Guiraudie has said in one of the interviews from Misericordia is that he really, and I think he's done this consistently in his films, is that he wants to show all sorts of bodies on screen, male bodies also. Like this whole idea of not just showing, the really hunky people who
Hot people
have
doing hot
hot.
people
Cinema
things.
Yeah, yeah,
bodies,
exactly. So I think
film
there's
bodies.
a deliberate decision also to have a Andre like that, and even in the other short film he has, there is a concentrated effort to put different sorts of bodies on screen together, because there's even the way in which a lot of the sex scenes play out, and they're seen through sort of bushes and all. Some of them are very explicit, which with the protagonist and the
I mean, there's
antagonist,
unsimulated sex in the
and there
film.
is unsimulated sex in this. So
Yeah.
but a lot of the times which you do see different, like, there is a sort of that hierarchy of what sorts of bodies have sex on screen is not there. I think there's a concentrated effort on his part to sort of break that, at least with a lot of his work, and in this especially because it's so explicit about it. But yeah, otherwise it's just I've not seen enough Shabrol, Ashwin, to comment on this. But I did, the whole Hitchcock joke has been made that this
yeah.
is Hitchcockian in the sort of cock being capitalized, of course. But it is that simple, the simple, what you call, it's got very simple genre elements to it, actually. And it's just using those to maximum effect in a way which
Yeah.
Prakhar mentioned Jaws, the whole idea of them swimming, and there is a mention of a fish, like a whatever
Yeah.
15-foot fish eating someone in
And
there
even
also.
the murder scene that you mentioned,
Yeah,
that is the
it has
only part
that.
of the film that has a
Yeah,
hint of background music. There's like
yeah,
some to it
yeah,
when he's swimming out,
yeah,
and matlab immediately the terror, because he's coming for
yeah.
him.
He
That
also,
sort of foreshadowing has been done
yeah,
already.
he also has a distinct thing where he's like fully naked but puts on his shoes first, so you kind of know
Shoes,
how.
yeah.
So you get actually, from what I had remembered, I had thought that the movie is more discreet about letting us know if he is or if he is not. He is very clearly.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically
Yeah.
about how much the self-deception part of it he wants to
No,
try and play
I
at.
was surprised by how
It is
early
basically
the
how many
act
red flags you
happens.
will ignore.
Yes.
Exactly.
If the dude is like tall, tan dude, how many red flags will you ignore?
He's a
Yeah.
10, but how much does it take for him to like no longer be a 10?
But
No,
but no, I think the interesting thing about the ending is that I think the when he screams out his name, I think he is hoping that these murders which he has seen and done will make him then come out to dinner with him. I think it's not just that he wants
Yes.
sex.
Yeah,
Right.
I think it's
yeah.
the whole idea that he's hoping that this all has happened now, and he says that I will come out with to dinner with you. After that, of course, it's like a naturally, if anyone is in their senses, they would think he's just luring him in. But he's not in his senses. So, and he says also, "You're stupid." Otherwise, also, he
Yeah.
only says to him. Uh,
Yeah.
so, so no, to me, it's like he thinks that all this has happened, and now I will probably get to have a sort of upper hand over him and maybe get him out for dinner.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think he's thinking
Because
that. Yeah,
throughout the film, Michelle has such toxic boyfriend
animal
behavior. He's
energy.
not the boyfriend also. Yeah. But in the sense that the humiliation and
Yeah,
then the sort of pushing him away and then reeling him in, the
yeah,
thing that he's constantly doing.
yeah.
No,
No,
I think,
again, sorry, go ahead,
no, no,
Chris. Yeah.
please go ahead.
No, no, please, इतना respectful नहीं होने की जरूरत है. जाओ.
Okay, no, so the reason why I appreciate Guiraudie's filmmaking so much
Hmm.
outside of all of these formal elements and everything that you
Hmm.
talk about is because of how in conversation with queer culture his
Hmm.
cinema is. Like,
Hmm.
to me, like I off the top of my head, I had like four different references that I immediately thought of. One is a painting, funnily enough, which
Hmm.
there's a very famous a French painting called Sunday Afternoon on the Island of La Grangette by
Hmm.
Georges Seurat. Very famous painting of like the sort of bourgeois folk of France sort of chilling at a lake, riverside, side of the
Hmm.
Seine. But what is little known is there's a piece that Seurat made before, which is considered to be the kind of counter or the other half of this painting, which is called Bathers at Aniers, which
Hmm.
is working class people sort of just sitting around,
Hmm.
this as the other side of the society that you usually see, and the
Yeah.
painting that we know very famously. And that's kind of already sort of foreshadowed or like sort of mentioned a little bit when Henri talks about how, when he was with his girlfriend, he would sit on the other side of the lake
Hmm.
with the families, experiencing heteronormativity or sort of
Yeah, yeah.
heterosexual society. But now that he's been deprived of it, now he's broken up, he's
Hmm.
on this other seedier
Yeah.
working class quote unquote side. These people don't really have jobs, that kind of that's one.
Yeah.
The second is two pieces of like actual very very famous gay pornography. The first is Boys in the Sand, which is a play on the very famous play and William Friedkin film
Boys in the Band.
Boys in a
Hmm.
Band.
The band.
Hmm.
It's by Wakefield Poole, and it's a kind of this kind of idyllic sexual paradise on Fire Island, which is this very famous island off of the coast of New York, where a lot of gay men own
There's a movie
property.
on this, no?
There's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
movie which
It's a Pride and Prejudice adaptation. Yeah.
adaptation.
And the moment you said paradise, it's also this place also seems so biblical because like you
Yeah,
have
absolutely. Garden
yeah.
of your Garden of Eden kind of
Yeah.
thing. But so that film was considered to be the actual pioneer of the golden age of pornography, which would start alongside, say, Andy Warhol's Blue Film, etc. But so that kind of takes sex as this idyllic thing. On the other hand, there's a pornographic film that was made in response to it by Fred Halstead called LA Plays Itself, which kind of, rebuts this idyllic view of 1970s gay culture of Wakefield Pools by saying actual gay existence in the urban space is one of violence and sadomasochism and people unable to form connections and racially segregate, because there's like a lot of like racial also euphoria in something like Boys in the Sand, whereas this talks about the kind of the opening shot of it is two people in a kind of garden or kind of idyllic space, and a bulldozer comes in as part of a construction to sort of uproot it and disrupt it, and that's how he sort of framed. So to me, a film like Stranger by the Lake is very much that conversation between these two motifs of how queer sexuality functions. And the other was obviously William Friedkin's Cruising, which is this seminal text about cruising itself. And cruising is this act of explicitly, generally it was seeking sex and anonymous sex, generally in public spaces like parks and bathrooms and such, essentially because again homosexuality was looked down upon or explicitly illegal. People engaging in these kind of one-off encounters would give you this safety that you don't know who the other person, which is also kind of played out in the film where he the Franck character has a sexual interaction with someone on the night of the murder and he says, I don't know his number, I don't know his face, I don't know his name.
Yeah.
That anonymity becomes a benefit. It becomes an escape from heteronormative society that allows you to indulge in these pleasures. So it's all of these themes to me are under the surface of Text Exchanger by the Lake, along with being just like a really good sex suspense thriller, almost borderline horror to me
Yeah.
in how it functions. So when Ashwin called it a sort of damning critique, to me, it's almost matter of fact to leaning sympathetic that this
Yeah,
is what the queer experience is, right? Like the gay man has been has been deprived of connection and the ability to have serious romantic joy.
Yeah.
And cruising, which used to be this dark dingy anonymous act, has now been able to come into the light, into the summertime, into a public space very openly where these men are lounging about. But at the end of the day, this sexual hierarchy, this this very there's some ideas of queerness being idyllic where there's no heteronormative beauty standards, etc. None of that applies. Cruising is a very I look at you, are you hot, we're having sex kind of an act. So that shallowness of it retains, that lack of being able to connect retains. Even there's something in conversation to a film that came out this year called Blue Film, where there's a whole conversation about connection and queerness there as well, which I thought resonated with me a bit there. But the point is that, right, that Guiraudie sees queerness as in a historical continuum, but is also able to make a genre film out of it. That is to me, like, that's what works about The Old Dream That Moves. That what works to me about Misericordia, which are the two other films of his I've seen. That queerness as a community, as a lifestyle, as a history, as a place in time, that I think he captures really, really well and is able to understand. On top of that, libidinal desire, sex, the sex drive, and all of those things of how vulnerable we are to it, and however rational parts of us must think that we want romance and we want connection in certain ways. At the end of the day, you are made up of the desires that you experience, and you will, at the end of the day, do anything for them. Like, just the last thing before I throw it back to you guys is, it's a great paper. Again, I forget who it's by. I think it's by David Eng. I could be wrong. And it talks about sort of queer melancholia, and it talks about essentially how during the AIDS epidemic and after the sort of AIDS epidemic had set in and been acknowledged, when sort of sex, what is it called, like STD control and condoms and all were proper. You understood how HIV was spread and all of these things, and gay men were pushed to have safe sex, and anyone who didn't and got HIV was seen as someone who was. First, it was like the disease that was meant to attack the gays. And after it became, acknowledged, it was that you are reckless, you are a bad person, you know how this spreads, but you are putting yourself at danger. What Guiraudie understands and what this paper talks about is that gay people also want to express their sexuality as it comes to them, right? And sometimes that includes having unsafe sex, because we have a certain idea of how bodies should interact with each other and what sex feels like and what must feel like. And so even if you are like, there's that scene where he's like, is it okay if I don't use a condom? And he's like, are you sick? And he's like, no, but like, shouldn't we prick? So the idea is that, and with the other
they
character,
did
Michelle,
have it, no?
they just have it. So the idea is that don't moralize desire. Their desire is what it is. The morality we add to it comes after, but at the end of the day, we are all just subject to it. And I think that's why I see it as this kind of almost sympathetic or like deeply sympathetic idea towards
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
just
there's
wanted to add.
sorry everyone. Ashwin, you
Sorry.
can
No,
go, then
like,
Prakhar, then I will.
see, you mentioned, So, like, when I said the critique of it, like, I mean, like, he's criticizing the vanity of it all. Like, and he argues, the film argues that a lot of this is self-inflicted and, like, part of your self-destructive behavior. But I agree that, like, it's sympathetic because especially like Henri character, he's a very sympathetic, tragic character who was also like looking for a connection
Does he?
there.
That's my only interjection was he
I'm
says
not
this.
even sure if he's gay, but like, but
No, I don't think
he kind of
no,
sacrifices himself. No, like he
I
becomes
don't
the
know if
bait
is it a
for the mission.
sacrifice or is it essentially a I wanted to do he says this, and which is what I didn't clock in. I did what I did, and at least I didn't feel the pain of suffering with it.
No, he
So
says, I got what I
I got
want.
what I
oh, I
wanted,
got
but
what I
Is
I
what he
want.
because
says.
he was not like he didn't want he was not brave enough to kill himself because of he was worried about the pain. That's how I
Huh, so I thought
Yeah.
it was more
interpreted.
to do with him
Yeah.
having that desire of death as opposed to sort of because of a lack of connection, as opposed
Like
to.
my idea is like he's hopeless in life,
Hmm,
but
Mm.
like he wasn't brave enough to brave is the wrong word, I guess.
yeah.
He
Courageous
courage
enough
to
to
hurt
take his
himself
own life. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to yeah
I mean,
take his
whatever
own life.
courage it takes to, yeah, do that. Yeah,
Yeah, hurt
yeah,
yourself basically.
yeah.
So like in that moment, just to save his friend, he became a bait. I mean, that's what I
Sure,
understood.
sure. So that was his sort of way of or telling him,
Telling him like, see, I can see it plainly. Now you see for
yeah,
yourself because I'm like,
Mm.
killing myself for you.
yeah.
That's
Which is
yeah.
quite
Anyway,
tragic, actually. Now that,
it is
yeah,
quite tragic when you think about
yeah,
it that way.
No,
So
but
yeah.
it's also we can't connect, or we are not connecting to sexuality, and the point was that our connection is built on other things, that
Sure.
we can sit here and we experience. So maybe it's that kind of act of giving that this guy
Hmm.
cannot give sexually, and that is something that despite that's something that the Franck character is seeking, but this is something that he can give along with his desire for death. So again, the Eros Thanatos
Mm.
thing, but it's like,
Hmm.
this is an act that I can bestow and I can give unto you what I can do for you in our twisted love, which is different from the twisted love you have for
Yeah.
yeah,
Michelle.
yeah, like Chris was saying, like like yeah, like express pure desire as it comes, without the morality
Hmm.
hanging over it. So like that is kind of the thesis of his films, like entirely. Like then you guys, have you seen like Staying Vertical? Like it's a very
No, I have not seen that.
we have to
None of
leave
us have
this
Not
seen.
seen
Yeah.
read.
that.
I won't
Yeah.
say anything more actually.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But it's just that only to look for a guy who's ready to die for you as opposed to the one who would kill you. It's
yeah,
No, but you want to die.
it's
You
based
also would
essentially
die for
that.
some. Yeah, but it's the whole. Na, I would rather die. No, not I, but like whatever. Sorry, I was about to say that
Uh,
the whole
a
idea
general
is that,
lie. Yeah.
the whole generalize that, it doesn't matter if the other one wants to die for me. I want someone who I want. I will die for. It's like a very whatever.
Yeah.
Find some
Yeah.
Bollywood analogy to this. I'm sure there is. There exists something which is because there are multiple times in this I was imagining an English remake of this where he's swimming and you
Mm.
get this whole idea where he, in the whole tension in the scenes when they're swimming is that he is both fearful of what he can do, but also the whole fear
Mm.
and excitement ka
There's this
the thing is there.
one
Say
this
Prakhar.
very beautiful scene when it is almost established. It's just Frank not willing to acknowledge that
Yeah,
the person he has fallen for is a very dangerous person. He is the
yeah,
murderer. He has all the proof for it. He has
yeah.
seen the murder happen,
Yeah,
just ignoring all of that.
yeah,
But when their confrontation also, I think, has happened, and then he
yeah,
invites him to swim with him.
yeah.
And you see,
That
and
one.
he refuses at first. He's like, no,
Yeah,
I'm not in the mood. A guy has just
yeah,
died. And then he goes into the water, and the way it is framed is you see Frank from the back, and you
yeah,
have his point of view. You see Michelle go into the water, and the way light interacts with his body and everything, he's already submerged
yeah,
even without being in water with him. That it's so beautiful, that whole
yeah,
sequence. And then right after is of course the uh, everything goes haywire, where he
yeah.
just willingly walks, or
I th- yeah, yeah. I think
absolutely willingly
the
walks
pattern
across.
of the movie breaks also to in my mind because a lot of the scenes have that, which is why the Akerman thing and the Jean Dieleman thing actually happens. In
Mhm.
that every scene begins with that master shot of the car
Yeah, yeah,
entering, and then and then the
yeah.
more the film goes on, the that pattern breaks, and then also this the one time before we see the POV shot, like the only time we see Andre and that guy interact is the time
Mm.
before he gets murdered, and that's when we get
Mm.
that POV shot of him, like the shaky cam we get like three times in this whole film, of the POV shot, I think, because otherwise it's very controlled in the sort of way which you would expect from this sort of film. But yeah, I mean, just incredible stuff. I need to rewatch his work. I think I would to like probably like it even more.
And
But yeah,
also wonderful performances.
yeah,
You have Frank constantly looking so pitiable. He has this
yeah,
lost dear
yeah,
face to him. And then there's this one scene when he's twice actually, he's quite literally lost in the water when he's like trying to
Yeah.
see where he came from and trying to swim back. Of that adds so much to the prey and predator
Yeah.
dynamics of the two.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, people, I don't know if there's a place to find it right now, which is official, but
Mm.
it is available wherever you seek your movie watching, I guess,
And I
is
think
the most
another reason
diplomatic way.
why particularly Guiraudie's filmmaking here really works because he has such less to work with.
Yeah.
And it can easily fall into the category where you have something scenic on the
Yeah.
screen. So that automatically substitutes for what the film is supposed to do for you. So it
Yeah.
draws the appreciation. It and
What are you laughing
a
at,
lot of
Chris? What did you think
I
of?
just thought of Hamnet. I'm sorry.
Okay.
well, it's like you sort of substitute or you outsource. Outsource is the right word actually.
Yeah.
Outsource the magic that the film in itself as a whole is supposed to create with your prowess as a filmmaker and as a
Yeah.
storyteller. You outsource it with scenic locations. That again, circling back to my point with sex is a lot of times sex is used for titillation, which irritates the shit out of me. It has to make sense within the story that you're writing. It can be as graphic as possible, barring rape representations. That I think we can do
This is
without those in
we,
any
I think
film.
we've stopped that, no? Apart from like Irreversible is the last, is that the big one for
Which
representing on-screen
really graphic
abuse?
assaults.
I mean,
Uh,
Irreversible is the one that comes to my mind because it features like an elongated scene of it.
Yeah.
So apart from that, I think
I think it is.
most pro
No, I mean, it's not as graphic per se, but I had that issue
don't tell
with
me The
like,
Brutalist.
no, disclaimer. Just as bad, but
Fair, actually.
that
Disclaimer was
scene
quite bad.
upset me
Disclaimer is
really
the TV
badly.
show by Alfonso Cuarón, which is
Alfonso Cuarón, yeah.
the biggest disappointment of whatever year it was for me, at least. So
Yeah.
terrible. Anyways, no, but Prakhar, yeah, you're right. I think everyone's a little more cautious about that aspect now.
Yeah.
Though I'm sure there are enough provocators roaming about who
I
will
mean,
do
early
something.
Almodovar is all this only. I've been watching a lot of his early work. Like there's an entire scene where a film called Kika, where there's an entire like extended scene which takes place while a woman is getting sexually assaulted. It is a lot, but it's played for like campy shits and giggles and all that kind of stuff. So it's deeply
I
uncomfortable.
mean, it's
Yeah.
a very he is a deeply uncomfortable figure when he's not making tasteful melodramas. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah, but
um,
the point I was getting to was that Guiraudie is able to weave all of that into his filmmaking without it feeling like he's outsourced anything.
yeah.
So it comes together again. Oof, you ruined this for me, Dhruv. You
Sorry,
really
sorry,
ruined the
Prakhar.
phrase for
I mean,
me.
there is a lot of coming together here. So, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but you mentioned a lot of great stuff. The only thing I'll add is there's one incidental shot, actually. Another one when they are having sex, and this is like it just cuts to this sound and sight of like the clouds and nature, I think. And it's like the morning is sort of overlaid onto
Yeah,
that
yeah,
image.
yeah,
And to
yeah.
me, that sort of, because the film is so scoreless and it's surrounded by so much nature sounds, to me, that space for him becomes a lot about that sort of experience, like everything in that space. Then, after he links that image and sound of the morning and the nature, essentially, to me, that entire space sort of becomes very intrinsically attached to his sexual experience with Michelle. So, a lot of like very minute stuff in this, doing like heavy
Yeah,
lifting
like it is a
without
lot.
doing
Like
without showing
music
that
is for
story.
like normal sexual encounters, no? Matlab, a lot
Yeah,
of people treat a certain playlist or playing music in the background as a
yeah,
part of that experience altogether.
yeah,
And the more you remove it from whatever the diegetic sound of the
mm,
space would be, the
yeah,
more I don't know, different or whatever
yeah.
the
I
experience
mean
becomes.
and I feel the whole idea of the spot for them is to have the sex within those surroundings. So I mean, it would be totally defeating the purpose if you throw in background music in this sort of stuff, which
Yeah.
is Sorry, I mean, American remake, whenever you come around to this, with the sex, of course, like, censored and everything. Just, I mean, the recipe for disaster of a American remake happens for this, by the way. And in the end, he'll not even call for him. 100%. He'll just like run away,
So
I think.
don't will it into existence. I mean,
Don't will
It
it
will
into
happen.
existence.
No, we know this someday or the
We
other
give
it
it to
will
Luca or
happen.
someone who knows what to do with it.
No,
yeah.
please
But
do
there
not give it
is,
to him also. Thank you.
Yeah.
I
but
don't want this getting
adding to the
tamed down.
case for no background music, there's this scene where Andre is standing and he's looking, and we have just like large frame of his, and there's like trees in
Hmm.
the background, and all you hear is the wind.
Hmm.
No music could have had a better impact than what that scene actually
Yeah.
does. And it is right after him, his and Fran's conversation where he warns him, like he lays it out for him.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a
Oh,
weird
yeah, he
dude,
says, nah, he
stay
like,
away.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, he says it, I think then. No, but I think this, I think Purakar, whenever you come, I can also increase this agenda of lack of background score. Otherwise, I get this whole sort of, oh, this guy is like, he wants his boring European art house movies thing, which I do not mind
We
that.
will continue to do that. So we won't accuse Prakhar of it, but we will continue to accuse
Wow,
you of
of
it.
course,
But
of course.
Absolutely.
I'm
sometimes I would
surprised
You
you
watch
didn't
wanted
a
a
make
film
any
and
quiet
like.
think,
place to be like this. Like, yeah.
It's called A Quiet Place, Ashwin.
Sir, it's just a studio film,
Why
and
call it a quiet place then? Call it a
my God.
background music heavy place. You can't establish your core context about the film is that if you make sounds, you will die, essentially. That's a
Yeah,
game,
that's why
right?
there
You're
are no
playing.
diegetic soundtrack for it.
but
Why would you put soundtrack in that? That's so stupid.
but no, I don't completely agree with it, because like the moment it's a studio film,
Yeah.
matlab, it's a certain kind of suspension of disbelief it is going to demand of you, and you have to give it that to be able to enjoy it. So
I
it's
didn't know
fine for
that's the whole
quiet place.
thing, I think. Nah, I don't buy this. It's not for a horror film like this because there's a lot people enjoy the paranormal activity movies, which are the most boring
Dhruv,
things
this
ever.
what is
So
this soapbox?
which is like quiet, quiet, quiet,
This is
quiet,
like
quiet, quiet, quiet,
CCTV
quiet,
footage
bang.
just
Yeah, that's it.
conjuring.
Yeah, so I'm saying like if those films make money, if you're a studio film, make it
Yeah.
like this. No, I
No, I
sorry
mean,
Ashwin for spoiling your experience of it. Now, if you rewatch it, you'll think about this. I'm like, of course,
I will think about it, I'm sure.
well, I was in the hall. I went to the first one to watch it. Sorry, Chris, I don't know how much of this will go in, but I guess it links to the thing.
Sure,
But
sir.
no, but I had gone to watch this in the cinema hall. And I was just like, why? Like in the first time they put background score, I was like, this is so stupid. Like I'm like, why would you do that? Like you have a concept of quietness being the horror, and the first thing you do is put background score. I'm like, sorry,
See,
I'm
but
not
not all
buying it.
filmmakers
Sir,
are
you're
like
not helping your
masters.
case when you say, "Oh, I like background score."
Jaws is great. Sorry, Jaws has great background score.
Once,
Psycho has
yeah.
great background score. Sorry, I'm just trying to clarify this.
A lot
The
of the times
Shining has great background score.
I'll go watch a film in the theater, and my mom would ask me कि how was it, and a lot of the times my response would be कि बहुत बज रही थी फिल्म. मैं like, बाजा देखने तो नहीं गए. It can't be like so sonorous. You,
Yeah, Prakhar, best of luck for Tuesday also. Sorry, just to this is for
oof,
yeah,
MBK.
yeah.
we for मैं वापस आऊंगा, which we are going to be bitching about a lot later. So
Yeah.
that's for later. But yes,
Anyways.
anyway, sorry for the digression, Chris.
No, I'm surprised you didn't make any Edel comparisons because that is the character dynamics I kept thinking of between the three of them. But
Interesting. I did not think of it. Sorry.
any other thoughts?
I try to not think of Adil as much as possible because it
You're the
just
Edel
makes me
hater
angry.
here. Okay, so we are the
I
lovers.
cannot stand Adil.
Yeah, we are
But that's
too
yeah,
weird
we are we
Edel, weirdo
Prakhar, I
Edel
will invite
enthusiasts.
you, not Varun, because Varun's very rude. So on the Airdill and Vertigo comparison episode, we'll do sometime, huh? Because that's
Done,
our
done.
theory
No,
about
not
this.
sometime. उसका date fix हो चुका है, sir. There is no
हो चुका है क्या?
sometime.
Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. 10th anniversary of Edel and Mushkil in October.
Yeah, okay,
We
fine.
are doing a
Sure,
And it's
sure.
not
special
just
episode.
Adil. On top of it is there is no Anushka Sharma character that I can stand.
Oh, okay, you
I
don't like her only, okay. Or do you not like
I
her as
any
a
other
performer?
I think her is fine. And
Okay,
I
the
don't want to
performer,
comment on her,
the
but as a
roles, the
performer,
The
roles.
role, yeah.
any of the characters and the performance she has brought to those characters, nothing works
Huh,
for
I
me.
can understand. But I think this is one of the few ones which really works for me. But I'll get to it whenever. That's a separate
We
discussion.
will get
Ariel
to
is a
it
totally
at another
separate
time.
discussion. But
Anyways,
Chris only brought this, not me, right? So
no,
yeah,
no, I did. I think we
yeah,
can call it for the day.
yeah.
Yeah, so we have one more episode left in this series, which will be covering English language queer
Much to
films.
my dismay.
Much to those dismay, because he wanted to obviously talk about Terence Davies. You can get on your Terence Davies soapbox for the next 30 seconds because you said you'll do it every episode
Oh
if
yeah,
you
I was
want
about to
to.
say, like in the sort of the queer misery angle of this meetings of Anna, and no, even this whole thing in meetings of Anna only. Yeah, the whole what Ashwin also had said that like the connection, like it's not just about the fact that she doesn't have a connection anywhere. She has the opportunity to have a connection, but she also chooses or can't get herself to commit to it. That sort of cowardice, if you want to call it, of connecting is very linked to like Terence Davies's Benediction. If people have not seen this, I have thought a lot about Benediction since I've watched it, and I think about it
We'll leave
every
for
day,
next episode.
Yes,
which is
next
there in the next
episode
episode. So that's a
will be
plug for it. Yeah.
Benediction. Dhruv wanted to do Davies's filmography in general. I said no, we're
As
doing a
we
couple of
should,
American
because he's
films.
a
We
magnificent
should. I
filmmaker.
think we hopefully have another opportunity, but I was like, no, I want to do some American films as well. So
Yeah,
we
you want
will
to
be
have, you
also doing.
wanted to have fun, so you
I
chose
want to
like
have
John
fun.
Waters, and which is
Yes, so
fair.
we'll also be doing John Waters' Pink Flamingo and the Wachowski sisters
Mhm.
Bound. So that's going to be an exciting, again, aesthetically diverse set of films.
As should be the case, I think, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Again, the idea is to look at queer expression not merely as narrative, which is, I think,
yeah,
a trap that a lot of scholarship tends to fall into, but as cinematic. I think what, like Prakhar was saying, what is distinct about film? To me, it's
yeah.
what to film as a medium does queerness bring when you explore it aesthetically, cinematically, etc., etc. So that is the aesthetic diversity is very much what we intend also with this kind of exploration. Um, you can find the links to all our social medias and Letterboxd and all of that. You know where to find them. And thank you so much for listening. Khatam.
Okay, I was about to say, like, do you want to plug what nonsense you're doing after this month?
No, I think
No,
that we
okay,
can do.
fine.
Next episode, we have the time. We'll do it
Okay,
perhaps then.
okay, okay, fine. So yes, great guys. Do you want to do the real nonsense, Chris? I don't know what to select in this.
I mean,
Prakar, do
we
you need to go
can.
be somewhere else? Then I'm happy to
No,
like, but
I don't
otherwise,
have to actually. Yeah, no.
no? Okay, so
Okay.
you can hang out for
Mm.
like 5-10 minutes to do this real
Yeah,
nonsense,
yeah,
right?
that's
If
fine.
there is
Yeah,
some.
yeah.
We do the
But
same thing
itna
like last time.
disparagingly real nonsense
Yeah, I'll be disparaging only. I don't like it. I've told them
वैसे
this.
खुद दो disparaging भी खुद ही है.
I mean, अब क्या I don't like it, but अब वो चलता है तो मैं थोड़ा ना कुछ कर सकता हूँ. I mean, I
Sure,
can
sure.
be disparaging, यार. Like, what's the हाँ पैसे तो दे ही रहा हूँ ना, so it's fine.
Sure. But yeah,
But
Uh,
even
how do you want to go?
in
Yeah.
Reels,
huh?
it's like with Reels, it's like when in Rome. So if you are in podcasting and it
No,
has
no. So
to have
basically,
a
what we've done is कि
digital
I'm like,
identity.
but my whole thing is that in the episode we won't make any compromises. For the reel, we'll do whatever nonsense you. So maybe like to clear my conscience, I'm like कि episode में सब कुछ normal है. आपको reel से कुछ और edit करके like short form content बनाना है बना लो.
No,
Like
our
that's why.
original pitch was just like, you take the episode, we can't be asked to do anything else. You cut
Yeah.
from that, figure it out. But they're like, तुम हम पे थोड़ा रहम खाओ, and like actually.
They don't want to listen to us basically. So yeah, anyways. No. So we'll do the same thing, is it? The one like we can talk about the movies,
Sure.
or like one of us can describe the movie. How did we do it last time? I forgot.
We like
La
we had like sound bites, kind of like adjectives for like the
One was
filmmakers.
Oh
adjectives,
God,
which
yeah,
was
I
really
hated
bad.
that. Yeah.
The other one was just like each of us picked a film and
Like
pick an
interesting
angle
aspects,
too.
right? Angle.
Aspects of it. Like, so you
Let's do
said
that.
family bonding session, I said Sanjay Leela Bhansali and all that kind of
Yeah, so like whatever Prakhar that like like is like outrageous. Like what you
sound
said, na, as
bitey.
the animal thing for Querelle is
You'll go
perfect.
there.
Like,
Go with that.
huh,
Okay.
that is perfect. Like that sort
हाँ,
of stuff. And Karan Arjun for Querelle is also perfect. So that's basically like the sort of
हाँ,
nonsense I think we need to emphasize.
वो कर सकते हैं.
Um,
Oh, I think what
And
we can do is for each film we can give a take on what immediately drew you in,
sure,
and what is the farthest reference it reminded you of. So it immediately took
sure,
you to some place you were not expecting, because
sure.
Animal was that for me for Querelle.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
दिमाग
Could you
लगाना
come up
पड़ेगा
with stuff? Like,
रुको
we're just coming up with stuff. So Querelle is easy. I think Prakhar can do it for
हाँ,
Querelle.
पॉपकॉर्न स्टाइल कर सकते हैं. Querelle is what
Huh.
I know what drew me in, what took me to what was it
I mean, I can
called?
I can do the sort of we'll do the sort of what is the question prompt I can do. Like we can include that, but they'll not include it in the
yeah yeah
reel. So Querelle we can do then for what's the other two film? My brain is a
meeting
mush.
Savannah
Yes, उसमें क्या बोलेंगे? I mean, I
क्या
have it.
comparison
I
करें
have this.
I
I have
don't
this.
have I have to
Imtiaz
think
Ali,
about this
silent Imtiaz Ali film, which makes
Oh
it
my
good.
God.
Uh,
Oh, we could also do that. Watch it and don't watch it. So watch it if you like XYZ or if you're a fan of
वो भी
ABC,
कर
and
सकते
don't
हैं
watch
actually. Yeah, we've
वो
not tried this.
sure
What you see? What you're saying that
then
all this is not reductive. You're making this
no
space now.
no that particular like there's this thing on again on Tumblr on Twitter again it's like if you like candy here's cocaine and it's like that have nothing it's like if you like like Call Me by Your Name you should watch Querelle kind of a comparison
No, then let's just do the one what Prakhar suggested before. Ki wo the furthest it took you like in the sort of
हाँ
comparison space and pre that what was it like? What is the film
what
sort of
drew you
about?
in
what
about
What
the
drew
drew
film.
you
you
in?
in there
So with I can handle the meetings of Anna with the Imtiaz Ali nonsense.
sure
So and what's the last one?
Stranger
Stranger
Stranger.
by the Lake. Where will you go with that?
We can go to
You
Jaws,
well,
no?
Chris
Because
can
there's
go with Adil if he's going to go there. So
I
to
mean I
Prakhar's
can
dismay,
mm,
I can go
Ashwin, I
there
don't know. Ashwin,
I don't know.
where
No, if you guys can figure it out. I'm
are you sure?
he's chilling
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I can't think of anything, and there are only three films. No, it's fine.
yeah.
Okay, just let's try then, I guess. Prakhar, are you ready the most because you were the most ready with
हाँ,
the.
ठीक है. Is there like, do I have to also explain what we're doing, or we begin talking and they'll cut
No,
it?
no, you begin. So 1 second, let me just stop this recording and then start another recording. So,
Got it.
yeah, 1 second. Wait, how do I stop it?